Chapter 1380. Although he said that, when he looked around, there was still vigilance and a hint of fear in his eyes. After all, the killer's methods were too frightening. If it were anyone else, they would feel fear in their heart, worried that they would encounter the killer. Feng Jiu, on the other hand, was smiling as she walked beside him. Compared to Luo Heng, who was timid and vigilant, she seemed to be more composed. He was still analyzing the situation in his heart. The assassin had specifically targeted the people of the Danyang sect. Moreover, he had severed the man's limbs, slit the man's throat, and cut off the man's genitals. "Hey, are you going to the Danyang sect?" Luo Heng shouted. A burly man in front of them turned around and glanced at them. Seeing that Luo Heng was wearing the uniform of the Danyang sect, he stepped forward and bowed. "Yes, I'm going to the Danyang sect. Are you two disciples of the Danyang sect?" "That's right. Let me tell you, this area is not very safe. Be careful when you go up the mountain. If you encounter any danger, call for help immediately," Luo Heng reminded him. The burly man was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, "I'm not boasting, but I have no problem protecting myself. You two don't have to worry." Feng Jiu smiled and said, "It's better to be careful. 6 or 7 people have died in this area. They were all killed." Hearing that, the man was slightly surprised and nodded. "Thank you, I'll be more careful." Then, he cupped his hands and left, heading up the mountain. Seeing that the man had left, the two walked around the forest and found nothing. Luo Heng went to rest under a tree. "Let's rest for a while. We didn't find anything after walking around. Maybe the man has left." He sat under the tree and took a sip of water. Feng Jiu thought about it. According to what they said earlier, one person would die almost every 6 hours. Then, it had been almost 6 hours since the previous incident. If they really had to kill one person every 6 hours, then it should be around this time. However, it was not easy to find the killer in such a big place. Moreover, the killer used knockout powder. Even if he did, the victim would not be able to make a sound. However, just as he was thinking, a light flashed through his mind. "Senior brother Luo, you said that the people who were killed were all burly men in their 30s? Feng Jiu looked at Luo Heng and asked. "Yes. The people who died were all as strong as bulls, but they didn't even have the ability to protect themselves. They were really too weak," Luo Heng said and looked at him. "Why are you asking this?" Feng Jiu, who was sitting at the side, immediately stood up. "Of the 2 people we met just now, one of them seemed to be a burly man around 30 years old? If the murderer specifically targeted this type of people, would it be? Do you mean that they have their eyes on that person?" Luo Heng stood up nervously and said, "That seems to be a possibility. Why don't I go find Senior Brother Lin and the others first? Shall we go and take a look? If we find them, that person will probably be dead soon. Calculating the time, if it's really 6 hours, then that person has probably already made his move. Quick, let's chase after them and take a look." As she spoke, she ran in the direction of the man who had gone up the mountain. Chapter 1381. At the same time, just as Feng Jiu expected, about 200 meters ahead, the unconscious burly man they met before was being dragged into the forest. His body rubbed against the ground, making a rustling sound. That person seemed to be looking for a better place to attack as he dragged the unconscious man, muttering from time to time, "All of you deserve to die, all of you deserve to die. I will kill all of you, kill all of you." That person's hair was disheveled and his face could not be seen clearly. He was barefooted and wore a tattered Danyang sect robe. At this moment, he was dragging the unconscious man's leg with one hand and holding a sharp dagger with the other. When Luo Heng, who was quietly approaching, saw this scene, his whole body froze and he almost screamed. It was a pair of hands that covered his mouth, allowing him to suppress his cry of surprise. Heavens! There really was a homicidal maniac! And it was someone wearing their Danyang sect robe. Could it be that the perverted homicidal maniac was from their Danyang sect? When he thought of this possibility, his body began to tremble, and he was shocked beyond belief. Senior Brother Luo? Senior Brother Luo? Fengjiu called out in a low voice, staring straight ahead. That person looked to be less than 30 years old. His body was thin and slender, and his face could not be seen clearly. His cultivation was at the peak of the golden core stage. With such strength, he could kill the people in front without alerting anyone. It could be imagined that this person also knew medicine. He used medicine to deal with those people, so he was able to kill without alerting anyone. Just like now, that burly man was being dragged like this. She was sure that if the two of them did not appear, it would not be long before that man would die without a doubt. Senior Brother Luo, catch him, Fengjiu said in a low voice. Hearing this, Luo Heng's face turned pale and he stared at him with wide eyes. After removing Fengjiu's hand, he lowered his voice and said angrily, You want to push me to my death? That person's methods were so cruel. Not only did he cut off my tongue, he also cut off my limbs. Most importantly, he even cut off my manhood. I don't want to die so miserably. How can that be? That person is also a golden core cultivator. You are also a golden core cultivator. You can definitely beat him. Think about it. Saving that person and capturing that killer demon is a great merit. The sect will definitely reward you. Moreover, it's not too late to find Senior Brother Lin and the others. Could it be that you're just going to watch the man who greeted us earlier be brutally killed right in front of you? But I don't have the guts. Senior Brother Luoheng of the Danyang sect is here. Surrender now. Fengjiu suddenly shouted and pulled Luoheng to the front. Seeing this, his face paled a little, especially when the perverted killer who was dragging the unconscious man stopped and turned around to look at the two of them. That sinister and somewhat crazy gaze made him involuntarily shudder. You're trying to kill me, he said with a long face, his legs trembling. When he saw that person release the man and walk towards them, he was so scared that he could not even run. Quick, pull me away. My legs are weak. Chapter 1382. Luo Heng's face paled and he screamed, Not forward, back. He didn't want to die. As an early golden core cultivator, he was no match for a peak golden core cultivator. If he overestimated himself and went forward, he would only end up dead. Go to hell. The man with disheveled hair in front of him stabbed with a knife, and at the same time, he sprinkled a handful of medicinal powder in his hand. At that moment Luo Heng screamed. He felt his vision blur, as if he had kicked something, and his whole body fell forward. At the same time, Fengjiu shot out a silver needle. When the man sprinkled the medicinal powder, he didn't expect to be hit by this move. He groaned, and his sinister and crazy eyes instantly looked towards Fengjiu. Ah! Luo Heng, who was rushing forward, was suddenly pulled back by a force, avoiding the medicinal powder in front of him. He didn't know what happened, but his whole body fell directly on top of the man. Ah! Fengjiu also took the opportunity to roll down, and after falling to the ground, he cried out in alarm. At this moment, Luo Heng realized that the man under him seemed to be motionless. He couldn't help but be startled. When he got up, he saw that the man's forehead had hit a sharp stone on the ground, and his head was bleeding. He had lost consciousness. Hiss! It's him? He hurriedly took a few steps back, and looked at the man's face in astonishment. Fengjiu rubbed his aching limbs and stood up and said, Senior Brother Luo, you're really amazing. You caught that man in one move, but shouldn't you tie him up first? Did I catch him? He asked blankly. Didn't you? She blinked, her face full of confusion. Yes, he was knocked to the ground by me, that's why he hit the stone and fainted. I caught him. I made the first contribution. He suddenly felt proud, but when he thought of that man, He squatted down again and lifted his hair to take a look. Then, he frowned and took out a rope to tie the unconscious man up. At the side, Fengjiu discreetly took out his silver needles and kept them in his sleeves. Seeing his expression, he asked, "Senior brother Luo knows him?" "Yes, this man is from the Danyang sect, but he has been missing for several months." "How did he end up like this? Why are you still killing people here?" he said doubtfully as he stared at the person he had tied up. He couldn't understand. "Senior Marshal Brother Luo, look, his hands and feet seem to have been tied up." Fengjiu pointed at the man's hands and feet as he asked, "Who was this man originally from the Danyang sect?" "A cultivator at the pinnacle of the Golden Core realm who also knows medicine. He shouldn't be an ordinary disciple, right? He's one of Patriarch Su Wuzi's people. I've seen him a few times, but then I heard." With that, he hesitated for a moment. Then he thought about how Meng Hao had killed people, and couldn't help but feel shocked. "Heard what?" Fengjiu asked curiously. Luo Heng was also a person who couldn't keep his mouth shut. In addition, he had doubts in his heart and wanted to find someone to talk to, so he whispered, "If I tell you, you can't tell anyone." "Yes, yes." She hurriedly nodded. "Don't worry, I'll forget what I heard." Chapter 1383. Hearing this, Fengjiu's eyes flashed with surprise. It can't be right? Thinking of this person's strange torture methods, she could not help but have goosebumps all over her body. Everyone would stir up trouble. Moreover, this perverted murderer's mind was so twisted that it might really be possible. "No matter what, we have to capture this person and interrogate him properly," Luo Heng said as he looked at the unconscious person. "I'll go find Senior Brother Lin and tell them that we've captured the person." Then, just as he was speaking, he saw the person on the ground suddenly jump up and hit him fiercely. He was caught off guard and knocked down. He cried out in alarm and fell to the ground. Before he could regain his senses, he saw the person who was tied up suddenly exert force, and the aura of spiritual power on his body burst out. Bang! With a loud sound, the thick hemp rope broke. Once the hemp rope was broken, he took out a dagger from somewhere and stabbed it at Luo Heng in front of him, causing Luo Heng to scream in fear. At the same time, he instinctively dodged and rolled to Fengjiu's side. Fengjiu also recovered at this time. Seeing the person waving the dagger at her, she immediately tried to stop him and restrain him. However, once they exchanged blows, she found that his strength was unusually strong. The explosive power of his body was in contrast to his thin physique. Swoosh! The sharp blade sliced through the air, bringing with it a sharp gust of wind. The tip of the blade sliced through her sleeve, tearing a hole. She quickly retreated, only to see a pair of crazy eyes staring at her, filled with hatred and bloodthirsty killing intent. It was as if he had made up his mind to kill her. He didn't even care about Luo Heng, who had fallen to the ground, and only wanted to kill her. She had ruined his plans. If he did not kill her, who would he kill? However, even though he had experienced some unbearable things, the bystanders were all innocent. He had vented his anger on others, so he no longer had the right to be pitied. "Senior Brother Luo, come and help me." Fengjiu retreated step by step. She had suppressed her strength to the level of Foundation establishment because she did not want to provoke anyone. Naturally, it would be difficult for her to protect herself with her Foundation establishment strength in the face of a murderous maniac at the peak of the Golden Elixir realm. Thus, she asked Luo Heng for help. "Oh, wait here, I'll find someone to save you." Luo Heng's face was pale and his legs were trembling. How could he think of saving Fengjiu? He scrambled to his feet, holding onto a tree branch as he tried to escape to call for reinforcements. How could he imagine what would happen to Fengjiu, who was only in the Foundation establishment stage, if he left just like that? The corners of Fengjiu's mouth twitched when she heard his words. In any case, this coward is still a golden core cultivator, Yet he actually only wants to flee and not fight. Exactly which clan taught him such courage? Thus, she rolled her eyes and ran in the direction of Luo Heng, shouting, "Senior brother Luo? Ah, don't chase me! Senior brother Luo, save me!" Unexpectedly, Luo Heng's face turned pale and he hurriedly waved his hands to chase her away. Don't come to me. Run over there, run over there." Chapter 1384. Whoosh! Clang! A sharp voice rang out. Sparks flew as the sword and saber clashed. The aura of a golden core cultivator surged between the two of them. However, Luo Heng was pushed several meters away by the man with disheveled hair after one strike. Ah! He staggered backwards, and just as he was about to fall, he was supported from behind. Startled, he turned his head and saw the youth supporting him and pushing him forward. With an encouraging expression, the youth said, "Senior brother Luo, I believe you can definitely beat him." Again. Luo Heng exclaimed and was pushed forward again. Using the momentum from the push, he waved the sword in his hand and rushed forward again. "Let's fight!" Whoosh! Bang bang bang! A sharp sword aura shot out from his sword and swept out with his slanted sword. The man leaped and dodged. The sword aura swept through the air and landed among the trees behind him, cutting down a few of them. Bang bang! As the tree fell, the man with disheveled hair dodged Luo Heng's attack. His bloodthirsty eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at Feng Nine. "I'm going to kill you! Kill you!" Seeing this, Feng Jiu's fingers moved slightly, and several silver needles were sandwiched between her fingers, shining with cold light. She did not go forward but shouted to Luo Heng, "Senior brother Luo, go! Capture him before senior brother Lin and the rest arrive. You'll get the first merit." Hearing this, Luo Heng's heart skipped a beat. Yes, this was the first merit. Now that they were fighting, the aura and pressure were surging. It would not be long before senior brother Lin and the rest arrive. If they arrived, how could he get the first merit? Thinking of this, he used all his strength to rush forward. He originally wanted to catch him alive, but he could not care less now. Thus, as he flew forward, he opened his other hand and threw out a large silver net. Bind! The large net came down from above, trapping the man who had rushed forward. In the next moment, it quickly tightened and tightly bound the man inside. Piercing light sword shadow. With a loud shout, a cold light flashed past. The sharp sword chi transformed into several rays of light that shot towards the man trapped in the silver net. Swish! Swish! Hiss! He sucked in a breath of cold air. His figure was knocked to the ground, and he screamed in pain and anger. He tore at the silver net. His hands were cut by the silver net because of the force he used to pull, and blood seeped out. The voice that contained a powerful pressure exploded with a sharp airflow. In an instant, a ray of light shot out from the man with disheveled hair. He tore with both hands, and the silver net fell to the ground with a bang. His entire body was drenched in blood. His gaze was sinister as he charged forward and viciously punched Luo Heng, who was scared silly. "Ah, no!" A cry of alarm rang out. The panic and fear in the voice made the hearts of the people who had rushed over after hearing the commotion. They quickly quickened their pace. When the leader, surnamed Lin, heard the voice, he immediately glanced at the people who were converging on him. When he saw that Luo Heng and the other two were not here, his expression changed and he immediately said, "Hurry up! Junior brother Luo Heng must have encountered that murderous demon." Chapter 1385. When he thought of this, he broke into a run and was a few meters ahead of the people behind him. When he arrived at the scene, he could not help but be dumbfounded. The faint smell of blood filled the air in the forest. A young man in green and Luo Heng had fallen to the ground and were staring blankly in front of them. They were clearly frightened. In front of the two of them, a man with disheveled hair was lying on the ground less than a meter away. His eyes were wide open, and there was a dagger stuck in his dantian. The entire dagger had sunk into his body, and only the handle of the dagger was visible. His body was stiff as he lay there, dead, but his eyes were still staring straight ahead. When he saw this, the man surnamed Lin hurriedly stepped forward to check on him. After confirming that the man was dead, he looked at Luo Heng with a complicated expression. "Junior brother Luo, are you all right?" "Senior brother Luo, is he the homicidal maniac?" "Senior brother Luo, you actually killed him." "Senior brother Luo is so skillful." "Senior brother Luo has made a great contribution." One by one, voices filled with envy could be heard. Someone stepped forward and recognized the dead man's face. He could not help but exclaim in surprise, "It's him? Him? Who?" The person next to him asked curiously and also looked at the dead man. "He's a disciple from ancestor Su Wuzi's mountain. I've seen him a few times, but recently I heard that he had gone missing for several months. How could he be here and become a ruthless homicidal maniac?" However, he did not ask this question. This matter was related to ancestor Su Wuzi of the sect, so they naturally could not discuss it. Luo Heng stared blankly at the dead man in front of him. His eyes were still staring in this direction. That malicious and bloodthirsty gaze made his heart tremble. When he thought of what had just happened, a trace of confusion flashed across his eyes. How did that man die? At that time, he had seen that punch carrying a fatal and powerful air current. It had shocked him so much that he had hugged his head and cried out in alarm. Therefore, he had not seen how he had died. When he did not feel any movement for a long time, he cautiously raised his head and saw that the man had already died in front of him. He wasn't the one who stabbed the man's dantian with the dagger, however. In this place, other than him, there was only the green-robed youth beside him and the unconscious burly man on the ground. However, that person was unconscious and could not make a move. Then, was it the green-robed youth beside him? Thinking of this, he turned his head in a daze and stared blankly at the youth, who was as pale and scared as him. Did he kill them? He looked even more scared than him. How could he have killed him? But if it wasn't him, then who was it? He clearly didn't do anything. "Luo, senior brother Luo, it's fortunate that you're here. Otherwise we'd be doomed." It took Fengjiu a while to regain his senses. With a pale face, he patted his chest and exhaled softly, looking as if he had just survived a disaster. Just as he was about to ask, he heard the green-robed youth hold his hand and say, "Senior brother Luo, thank you for saving me, you've done a great service." Hearing this, his entire body quivered. That's right. That homicidal maniac was dead, and he had made a great contribution. Chapter 1386. That's right, I made the first contribution. His eyes were bright and his face was full of excitement. The fear and panic from before had long disappeared. "You don't know this, but we followed this psychopathic murderer here and saw him about to attack that burly man. That's right, that man is still over there. He's unconscious and must have been drugged. You should wake him up first," Luo Heng said proudly as he pointed at the burly man lying on the ground not far away. He continued, "Let me tell you, this psychopathic murderer is at the peak of the golden elixir realm. I spent a lot of effort to kill him. The process was extremely dangerous. During the fight, I was almost killed by him several times. Fortunately, I reacted quickly." Fengjiu was pushed to the back by the crowd. When she saw the disciples of the Danyang sect surrounding Luo Heng and asking questions, she could not help but smile. That man was really killed by junior brother Luo? Hearing the voice beside her, Fengjiu turned her head slightly and saw that the man surnamed Lin was staring at her. She nodded, yes. Fortunately, senior brother Luo was here. Otherwise, that murderer would definitely have escaped. Hearing this, the man surnamed Lin frowned slightly and seemed to be a little suspicious. However, there was no one else here. The young man in front of him was only at the foundation establishment stage. If it was not Luo Heng, who else could it be? Let's go back to the sect. Oh right, you. Luo Heng looked around and his eyes fell on Fengjiu with joy. You haven't told us your name yet. Fengjiu heard this and grinned, raising her voice. I'm Fengjiu. Fengjiu? Come, Fengjiu, I'll take you up the mountain. It's only a matter of a word for you to be a handyman. Let's go. Luo Heng walked towards Fengjiu and said confidently. Obviously, he had taken responsibility for this matter. As a result, Fengjiu followed him up the mountain. The people behind him looked at each other and carried the corpse back, intending to hand it over to the sect to investigate the matter of this sect disciple becoming a homicidal maniac. With Luo Heng's protection, Fengjiu naturally entered the Danyang sect and became a handyman on the Sanyang Peak. This is where you will be staying. Remember what I told you, odd job workers are not allowed to walk around. This 3 Yang Peak is divided into 9 levels. Ancestral Master 3 Yang lives on the 9th level. Without his permission, even my master is not allowed to go up. As for the 8th level, it is where a few of Ancestral Master 3 Yang's disciples live. I just told you that you are not allowed to go up there. As an odd job worker, you can move around from the 1st to the 3rd floor, but you can't move from the 4th floor onwards. Also, someone will come to guide you tomorrow and tell you what to do. Your odd job worker uniform and waist tag are all here. Take them. Fengjiu watched as Luo Heng handed the items to her and turned to leave. She looked at the items in her hand and then turned to walk into a simple and crude cave residence. Although it was called a cave residence, there was nothing inside. It was just an empty cave with a stone bed and a stone table. There wasn't even a place to take a bath. She had no choice but to make do with it. She took out the items from her space and laid them on the stone bed. Then, she lay down on the bed and rested her head with her hands behind her head. She thought that since she had come to Ancestor 3 Yang's mountain, she would be able to see her mother sooner or later. Chapter 1387. That's right, so many years have passed, how could she possibly recognize me? Moreover, she had altered her appearance slightly, so only a small portion of her original appearance could be seen between her brows. Furthermore, she probably would never have thought that she would come here, to the Danyang sect to look for her. However, it didn't matter, I'll just stay here for now, I'll have a chance to see her sooner or later. The next day, before the sun had even risen, she was woken up. Following the instructions from the message slip, she arrived at the management office of the 3rd Peak. When she arrived, there were already 2 odd job workers wearing the same green robes as her standing there. "Good morning, Manager Qian." She smiled as she greeted him. Manager Qian glanced at her and replied indifferently, Stand there." Yes. She stood beside the 2 odd job workers, and not long after, about 10 more people arrived one after another. When everyone had arrived, Manager Qian began to talk a lot, explaining things and what to pay attention to. "Alright, the rest of you can go back to your work. The new one yesterday, called Feng something?" Manager Qian pointed at Fengjiu and said. "Fengjiu." She took a step forward and said. "Yes, Fengjiu, come with me, I'll tell you what you'll be doing from now on." Manager Qian turned around and walked forward with his hands behind his back. Seeing this, Fengjiu followed him. New odd job workers have to start from the lowest level. You were introduced by Luo Heng, and he also asked me to take care of you, so I'll arrange an easier job for you. Hearing the words coming from the front, Fengjiu smiled and said, "Thank you for your care, Manager Qian." At 3 Yang Peak, the back of the mountain is filled with herb fields, and there are specialized odd job workers taking care of it. From the 4th peak onwards, it's the place where the disciples of Founder 3 Yang's disciples live and refine their herbs. At 3 Yang Peak, the spiritual herbs are stored at the 7th peak, and there are specialized people taking care of it. Hearing this, Fengjiu's eyes lit up. Could it be that he wanted her to deliver the spiritual herbs? However, The words that followed told her that she was thinking too much. Do you see that? That's the herb field. That field is planted with the commonly used red-tongue spirit leaf grass. The red-tongue spirit leaf grass is naturally fragrant and can easily attract snakes and birds to eat it. What you need to do is to guard here and prevent snakes and birds from stealing the red-tongue spirit leaf grass. Hearing this, Fengjiu was stunned and asked, "There are snakes and birds on this mountain?" Manager Qian glanced at Fengjiu and said, "Just do what I told you to do. Don't talk too much. When you meet them, just chase the snakes away as I told you." Seeing this, Fengjiu could only nod. "Yes, I understand. You're the only one guarding this area. Pay more attention. If there's anything, look for me at the management office." After saying this, he flicked his sleeves and was about to turn and leave when he saw a figure walking towards him. When he saw that figure, Manager Qian, who was still putting on airs, suddenly had a 360-degree change in attitude. With a face full of wrinkles from smiling, he bent his waist and went forward to greet him. "Senior Brother Chern, why are you here personally? Is there anything that I can do? Senior Brother Chern, please tell me." Chapter 1388. Strange. That strange feeling was like a child pretending to be an adult and putting on a fake beard. It was neither fish nor fowl. "Who are you, brat? Why do you keep staring at me?" That person's eyes widened as he stared at Fengjiu and asked. Seeing this, Manager Qian hurriedly laughed and said, "He, Senior Marshal Brother Chen, he's a new odd job worker. He just came up the mountain and is still in a daze. Don't lower yourself to his level." "Greetings, Senior Marshal Brother Chen. I just arrived." She stepped forward and bowed with a smile on her face. "A newly arrived odd job worker knows about me? It seems like my reputation in Three Yang Peak is so great that everyone knows about me." He suddenly had a proud look on his face. With one hand behind his back, he used the other to stroke his eye-catching handlebar mustache. Hearing this, Fengjiu was startled and stared at him again. Why did she feel that this person's behavior was strange? Manager Qian had already called him Senior Marshal Brother Chen, and she had only followed suit. He actually had a proud look on his face as if he was about to become famous. However, seeing this, she still smiled and said, "Senior Marshal Brother Chen is handsome and has an extraordinary bearing. Although I just entered the mountain yesterday, I haven't seen many people with Senior Marshal Brother Chen's celestial bearing." Manager Qian was a little dumbfounded when he heard this. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly as he looked at Fengjiu with a strange expression. It was obvious that he didn't expect him to brag without a draft. Senior Marshal Brother Chen's eyes lit up when he heard this. His hand that was stroking his handlebar mustache paused slightly. He looked at Fengjiu and nodded with satisfaction. "Not bad, you have a bright future." Hearing these words makes me burst with joy. Although the disciples of Three Yang Peak all know that I'm handsome and have an extraordinary bearing, very few people praise me in front of my face like you. Even Fengjiu's mouth twitched when he heard this. He was indeed an idiot. She composed herself and said with a serious face, "That's because everyone respects Senior Brother Chen in their hearts. Senior Brother Chen not only has the appearance of an immortal, but also has an extraordinary temperament. Before I even got close, I could smell the medicinal fragrance. It's obvious that Senior Brother Chen's attainments in the Tao of alchemy are few and far between. For a little servant disciple like me to be able to see such an extraordinary genius like Senior Brother Chen, it's really a blessing that I've cultivated for 3 lifetimes." When he heard Fengjiu's casual words, Manager Qian was dumbstruck. He actually didn't know that this kid had such skill in flattery. This was the first time he met Senior Brother Chen, right? Those who didn't know would think that he already knew her. Compared to Manager Qian's dumbfounded expression, Senior Brother Chen's entire body felt light and comfortable. His mood improved and he asked, "What's your name, little servant?" "Senior Brother Chen, my name is Fengjiu." She smiled and narrowed her eyes. Fengjiu. I'll remember it. He nodded and looked at Fengjiu with satisfaction. You're not bad at all. I'll reward you with these spirit concentration pills. As he spoke, he flicked his sleeve and a bottle of pills flew out and landed in Fengjiu's hands. Manager Qian looked on enviously from the side. He just moved his mouth and said some flattering words, and a bottle of spirit concentration pills was in his hands? Fengjiu was slightly surprised, but he still expressed his gratitude with a face full of joy and excitement. Thank you, Senior Brother Chen. Senior Brother Chen clasped his hands behind his back and raised his chin slightly. He had the appearance of an expert as he waved his hand. All right, get to work. Chapter 1389. Seeing that Senior Marshal Brother Chen had left, Manager Qian was about to lecture Fengjiu with a darkened face when he saw him stride forward and hand over the spirit concentration pill. Manager Qian, it's my first time here and it's all thanks to Manager Qian's care. This spirit concentration pill was a gift from Senior Marshal Brother Chen, so I'll gift it to Manager Qian. Please accept my kind intentions. Hearing this, Manager Qian was startled. He glanced at Fengjiu and saw that his face was sincere without any sign of reluctance. Only then did he nod his head in satisfaction. He was very pleased in his heart, but he still pretended to decline. This is a gift from Senior Marshal Brother Chen, so you should keep it for yourself. After all, this is a spirit concentration pill, and it's not cheap to buy. Hearing this, Fengjiu said with a serious expression and admiration, I know that Manager Qian is an upright and plain-spoken person, cold on the outside but warm on the inside. I've just entered the mountain, and Manager Qian has taken care of me in many ways and even arranged these leisurely matters for me. I'm very grateful for Manager Qian's kindness, but I don't have much to offer, so Manager Qian must accept this spirit concentration pill. As she spoke, she placed the pill in his hand. Seeing his embarrassed expression, she put on a serious expression and held back her laughter. Ahem! Manager Qian was elated by Fengjiu's words, and his mood soared. Especially when he saw Fengjiu place the pill bottle in his hand. He coughed lightly and said with a forced expression, All right then. Since you're so considerate, I'll accept it. Manager Qian, I want to ask, what kind of existence is this Senior Marshal Brother Chen in Three Yang Peak? Although she had been flattering him, she really knew nothing about this Senior Marshal Brother Chen. Hearing this, the corner of Manager Qian's mouth twitched. He glanced at Fengjiu and said, So you're saying that you've never heard of his name? She was so good at flattering him that he thought he knew him. Ha ha! She laughed embarrassedly and scratched her head a little embarrassedly. Today is the first time I've seen him. I also heard the steward call him Senior Marshal Brother Chen, so I followed suit. Cough. Manager Qian coughed lightly and put away the medicinal pill with a flip of his hand. Only then did he clasp his hands behind his back and said, Senior Brother Chen's full name is Chen Dao. He's a relative of our sect's Grand Elder. His status in the sect is special. It's your fortune to be able to catch his eye. At this point, he paused for a moment before he continued. He has a strange personality, and his behavior is unreasonable. Not many people in the Three Yang Peak are worthy of his attention. Moreover, his refining skills are quite outstanding. Due to his status, apart from founding Master Three Yang, everyone in the Three Yang Peak has to be respectful to him. I see. Thank you for your guidance, Manager Qian. She cupped her hands and said, I won't disturb Steward Qian any further. I'll go stand guard at the herb field. Manager Qian nodded and said, Go on. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me in the future. Since she had taken his things, she naturally had to take good care of him. Otherwise, it would be somewhat inexcusable. After he left, Fengjiu narrowed her eyes and a smile appeared on her face. Only then did she walk towards the herb field. Chapter 1390. What's that? She was stunned for a moment as she saw the round thing scurrying around the spiritual herb field. She immediately rushed forward to take a look and saw that the thing with green feathers on its head was actually a chicken. A green feathered chicken? Is it a chicken? She was a little dumbfounded. That thing had the body of a chicken, but the only difference was that its feathers were green. There was a green tuft on its head and its body was also a glossy green. However, its body was as round as a balloon, and under that round body there were 2 chicken claws. 7th level beast? The corner of her mouth twitched slightly. This was a bird and a beast, and it was a 7th level beast. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Just as she said the words 7th level beast in shock, she saw the green feathered chicken eating the red-tongued spirit leaf grass raise its head and cry at her. That cluck, 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 cluck sound in her ears was as if it was scolding her for calling it a beast. She saw the round green feathered chicken open its beak to pick up the most tender leaf of the red-tongued spirit leaf grass and eat it. She hurriedly regained her senses and shouted sternly, "Green feathers, stop eating!" She pounced forward to grab that green feathered chicken, but who knew that with a flap of its wings, it actually flew up and leaped a few meters away. It can even fly? Is this a chicken or a bird? She looked in shock at the green feathered chicken that was spreading its wings at her in a show of force. She saw it stretch its neck and raise its head, opening its beak to pick up the tender leaf of the red-tongued spirit leaf grass. "You're still eating? You really think that I can't do anything to you?" She rolled up her sleeves and stealthily approached from behind. She then pounced forward and grabbed with both hands. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Cluck, cluck, cluck. The green feathered chicken flapped its wings and flew up, raising its head and chirping loudly. Fengjiu watched as it proudly landed at another spot and began to eat the red-tongued spirit leaf grass again. Seeing this, Fengjiu raised her eyebrows and the corners of her mouth curled into a malicious smile. "You're still eating? All right. You're the one who forced me to do this." As she finished speaking, she walked closer again. This time, she pretended to pounce forward but stopped at the same time. When the green feathered chicken flapped its wings and flew up, a silver needle shot out with a whoosh. Cluck, cluck. After letting out 2 chicken cries, the green feathered chicken flapped its wings and fell from mid-air. Fengjiu stood on her toes and leaped forward to catch it. "Heh, I still can't catch you this time?" She proudly raised her chin and patted the green feathered chicken. When her hand landed on its body, the feeling she got from it made her slightly surprised. This meat, inexplicably, she swallowed her saliva and stared at the green feathered chicken in her hand. Her eyes lit up. If he were to eat a 7th-grade beast, how different would the taste be? Cluck, 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 cluck. The green feathered chicken raised its head and chirped, as if it was terrified. It struggled and flapped its wings in an attempt to escape. However, it was caught by Fengjiu. How could it escape just because it wanted to? Thus, Fengjiu stared at the chicken feather in his hand and murmured, "Steamed? Boiled? Or roasted it? Or stewed it? Or fried it? Which taste would be better?" Her idea was very simple. Since it was a type of animal, it was naturally edible. Moreover, even if the green feathered chicken was a 7th-level spiritual bird, it was still a chicken. After plucking its feathers and processing it, it would only be food to fill the stomach. Chapter 1391. And? It's an egg? She blinked her eyes and looked at the struggling green feathered chicken in her hand. "You have an egg? You're wearing a green hat on your head and you're actually a female? I thought you were a male." She originally wanted to take advantage of the fact that there was no one around to deal with the chicken and eat it, but when she touched the egg in the green feather chicken's stomach, she couldn't help but sigh. "Forget it, you can go. Don't come again. If you come again, I won't let you go." She put the green feather chicken on the ground and signaled for it to leave quickly. After all, it was a 7th-level spiritual bird. Although it didn't have spiritual wisdom like the sacred beasts, it still understood people's thoughts. At this time, seeing Fengjiu catch it and then let it go, it couldn't help but cry out. It circled around her and refused to leave. Still not leaving? Fengjiu raised her eyebrows and looked at the green feather chicken circling around her feet. She whispered, "Are you a wild one? Or a free-range one? Still not leaving? If you don't leave, I'll regret it." Thinking that a pot of fragrant chicken soup was gone just like that, she sighed and found a place to sit down. She took out pastries from her space and ate them. If there was no meat, then eat pastries. Just make do. Gu ji ji, ji 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 ji. The green feather chicken circled around Fengjiu and cried out. It stared at the pastries in her hand and refused to leave. You want to eat? Fengjiu raised her eyebrows. She crushed some pastries and put them in the palm of her hand. Eat. As soon as her voice fell, she saw the green feather chicken stretch its neck and peck at the pastries in her hand. Every time the chicken pecked at the pastries, it brought a numb feeling to her palm. She couldn't help but withdraw her hand and reveal a smile. She fed the green feather chicken while looking at the surrounding medicinal field. Other than this green feather chicken that came out of nowhere, the others were quiet and there weren't any snakes that came to make trouble. Seeing this, she narrowed her eyes and was about to doze off. However, at this time, she suddenly heard a voice. That's Fengjiu? Fengjiu? Her half-closed eyes quickly opened. Listening to the voice, it seemed to be Senior Brother Chen. Puzzled, he poked his head out to take a look. Sure enough, it was him. He quickly stood up and walked out. Senior Brother Chen. You're here. Come, come. Chen Dao beckoned for Fengjiu to come forward. Senior Marshal Brother Chen, what are your orders? She smiled and squinted her eyes as she stepped forward and asked. She was already planning something in her head. An alchemist would always need a pill disciple by his side. If she could follow Chen Dao and become his pill disciple, perhaps it would be easier for her to meet her mother. When I was talking to you just now, I was so happy that I forgot what I came here for. When she heard this, she was stunned for a moment, then she smiled and asked, Then what is Senior Marshal Brother Chen doing here? Do you want fresh red-tongue spirit leaf grass? You know? Chen Dao glanced at Fengjiu and smiled. That's right, I want fresh red-tongue spirit leaf grass. Go get some for me, I'll wait for you here. As he spoke, he found a rock and sat down. He didn't plan to go down and pick the grass himself. Okay, Senior Marshal Brother Chen, wait a moment. I'll be right back. She turned and walked back into the medicinal field to pick the red-tongue spirit leaf grass. Although dried spirit herbs could be used, some of them weren't as effective as fresh ones. The red-tongue spirit leaf grass was one of those fresh spirit herbs. The fresher the spirit herb, the more effective it was. Chapter 1392. The red-tongue spirit-leafed grass only needed to be used by pinching the two grass tips from the center of the leaf. The two grass tips were like chicken tongues, dark red in color. To pluck them, one had to pinch them at the right juncture. This way, the spiritual energy contained within the grass tips could be locked in. This spiritual medicine was a necessary ingredient for medicines like the Vitality Recovery Pill. After about half an incense stick's worth of time, she brought the grass tips she had plucked to Chen Dao. Senior Marshal Brother Chen, have you seen enough? Chen Dao didn't explain in detail how to pinch the grass tip. He thought that this new brat would ask him if he didn't know. He didn't expect that in just half an incense stick's worth of time, he would really pinch the grass tips out. Looking at the grass tips in front of him, he carefully examined them. His expression couldn't help but change slightly. He asked, Didn't you say you were new? That's right. I just came in yesterday. She grinned. Normal servants wouldn't know how to pinch the red-tongue spirit-leafed grass. He looked at Feng Nine and stroked his funny mustache with one hand. There was an inquisitive look in the depths of his eyes. Thank you for your praise, Senior Marshal Brother Chen. She smiled and said. Hearing this, Chen Dao was startled. He asked, When did I praise you? Senior Marshal Brother Chen said that normal servants wouldn't know. Doesn't that prove that I'm not a normal servant? Her eyes were filled with craftiness. She smiled and said, "When I came in, I did my homework. I've seen the great collection of spiritual medicines. That's why I know how to pinch the red-tongue spirit-leafed grass tips to ensure that its medicinal effects don't dissipate." Hearing this, Chen Dao's interest was piqued. "You've seen the great collection of spiritual medicines? There are many spiritual medicines in there. You've really seen and memorized them?" "Ha," she smiled a little embarrassedly and said, "Actually, I didn't remember much. I just remembered some and didn't remember some. This red-tongue spirit-leafed grass happened to be the part that I remembered." As she spoke, she thought about it. Although guarding this medicinal field was a leisurely job, she had to stay here all the time and couldn't leave. Even walking around was a problem. That meant that she wasn't well informed. If she could change her job, seeing the sly look between the brows of the youth in front of him, that quick-wittedness, and that delicate and pretty face, he looked very likable. Now that he was answering his question, he seemed to be distracted. He couldn't help but smile and ask, "What are you thinking about?" "I was thinking that it would be great if I could change my job." Feng Jiu opened his mouth to speak as if he had been tricked. As soon as the words left his mouth, he pretended to be shocked and covered his mouth. He blinked his eyes and looked at Chen Dao, who had a faint smile on his face, and smiled embarrassedly. "Senior brother Chen, I was just saying." She lowered her head like a child who had done something wrong. "Cough!" Chen Dao coughed lightly and asked with his hands behind his back, "Isn't it good to guard the herb field here? This job is so leisurely." Hearing his words, Feng Jiu raised his head and sighed. He was a little embarrassed and a little troubled. He said, "This job really isn't leisurely. I've been sitting here for half a day and only met you, Senior Brother Chen. If Senior Brother Chen doesn't come, I don't know what to do." Hearing this, Chen Dao laughed loudly and nodded. He looked like he understood. He said, "That's true. A teenager like you has a floating heart. Letting you guard this medicinal field is indeed a bit too boring." Chapter 1393. Seeing this, Chen Dao smiled and said, "There's an errand job that I think suits you quite well." "Errand job?" Feng Jiu's eyes lit up. It sounded like a good job? "Yes, errand job. You'll have to run up and down to deliver spiritual medicine or carry things for people." Chen Dao stroked his mustache and said, "If you think it's okay, I'll go back and say it for you." "All right, definitely. Then I'll thank Senior Brother Chen in advance," she said happily, cupping her hands and bowing to him. Chen Dao nodded and took the spiritual medicine. He said, "Wait for the news." After saying that, he walked away. Seeing this, Feng Jiu grinned and laughed. She was instantly energized. Running errands like delivering spiritual medicine might allow her to go to some places above. Moreover, she could get more information. Thinking of this, she happily hummed a little tune. But at this moment, she heard a hurried gurgling sound. Turning around to look, she saw a level 8 silver snake with its mouth wide open, attacking the green-feathered chicken that hadn't left yet. "Snake?" She was slightly surprised and hurriedly went forward to take a look. She saw that the snake and the chicken were fighting. Due to the difference in rank, the rank 7 silver snake seemed to have the upper hand in battle. However, the green-feathered chicken did not show any weakness. It raised its neck and cried out. At the same time, it flapped its wings and flew up. At the same time, its chicken claws flashed and slashed towards the rank 7 silver snake with a fierce aura. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Hiss! Seeing that the snake and the chicken were fighting, and that many of the spiritual medicine around them were destroyed, her expression changed slightly. She quickly went forward and shouted, "Stop! If you want to fight, fight somewhere else. Don't destroy those spiritual medicine." However, the two beasts acted as if they didn't hear her at all and directly ignored her. Especially the silver snake, it even swept a warning glance at Feng Jiu as if it was demonstrating its power. The snake's tail curled and swung again, slapping away the fluttering green fur. Bang! Green Feather's round body was like a ball as it fell to the ground and bounced back up. Its chicken feet and head had already shrunk when it fell to the ground. Its entire body was round like a ball as it rolled down for a distance. After making sure there was no danger, it stretched out its head. Cluck, cluck, cluck. The feathers on the green-feathered chicken's head and neck stood up in anger. Each strand of feathers were like green spikes. It raised its head and cried, flapping its wings. It rushed forward and once again fought with the silver snake. It was the first time she saw a snake and chicken fight. Fengjiu was very surprised. If she was not worried that the snake and chicken would destroy too many spiritual medicine, she would really want to continue watching. However, when she thought that green-feathered chicken still had an egg and those spiritual medicine that had been trampled on, she gave up. You're not obedient? Fine, then you asked for it. As Fengjiu spoke, she bent down and picked up 2 pieces of broken stones. She weighed the stones in her hand. She saw that the silver snake suddenly jumped up and opened its mouth, as if it wanted to swallow the green-feathered chicken whole. Hence, the 2 stones in her hand shot out. Whoosh! Bang bang! A sharp sound rang out, and 2 subtle sounds of collision were heard. One of the 2 stones hit the snake's weak spot, and the other knocked out a poisonous fong in the snake's mouth. Hiss hiss! Chapter 1394. Hiss! In the end, the snake had no choice but to let out a hiss and quickly fled. Ka-keek! A certain proud green-feathered chicken flapped its wings and stood on a rock. It raised its head and crowed a few times as if to say, I won against that snake. Seeing this, Fengjiu could only secretly shake her head. She went forward to deal with the stepped spiritual herbs. At this moment, the green-feathered chicken came to her side and wandered around. Shoo shoo shoo, go away. Don't bother me. She pushed the green-furred beast away, while planting the spiritual herbs that could still be straightened and cleaning up the ones that had been trampled to death. Ka-keek! Perhaps it knew that Fengjiu wouldn't kill it, hence, the green-feathered chicken circled around her and crowed. However, it didn't dare to have any ideas about the red-tongued spiritual leaf grass. A day passed in leisure. Fengjiu was lying on a rock and taking a nap. A green-feathered chicken was squatting next to her. It stretched out its head and looked around, as if it was a sentry, paying attention to the surrounding movements. In the evening, another odd-job worker came to take over her duty. Hence, she returned to the stone cave to rest. Who would have thought that while she was walking in front, the green-furred cat was also following closely behind her with its splayed feet. Every step she took, it would also take a few steps. When its round body moved, it looked very clumsy. Why are you following me? If you continue to follow me, be careful that I'm too hungry and stew you. Fengjiu glanced back and warned. Ka-keek! What responded to her was the excited cry of the green-feathered chicken. It folded its wings, raised its head, and swaggered behind Fengjiu. Seeing this, Fengjiu didn't bother about it. Not long after she returned to the cave, she heard Manager Qian's voice from outside. She walked out of the stone cave and bowed in front of Manager Qian. Manager Qian. Manager Qian glanced at her and said, Today, Senior Brother Chen came to find me and said that he would help you to run errands. From tomorrow onwards, you will report to the 3rd peak. There's a fatty there whose surname is Li. He'll arrange things for you. With that, he turned and left. Hearing this, Fengjiu could not help but grin. Chen Dao's efficiency was quite high. The next morning, she woke up early and went to the 3rd level to report. As soon as she walked in, she heard a fat middle-aged man scolding, These brats are getting more and more outrageous. It's already so late and no one has come. The sun is almost at their butts and they're all so lazy. They're not cut out for work. When Fengjiu heard this, she stopped in her tracks. She glanced at the middle-aged fatty and called out, Is this Manager Li? I'm Fengjiu. Manager Qian asked me to report here. The middle-aged fatty turned around and saw the green-robed youth standing there. He grabbed a basket from the side and walked forward to stuff it into Fengjiu's hands. Since you're here to report, send this basket of herbs to the 7th cave abode from the left on the 5th peak. And this herb, go to the 3rd cave abode on the 6th peak quickly. She was stunned for a moment, then happily responded. She took the basket and walked out. The cave abodes on the 5th and 6th peaks were all for alchemists. She could take advantage of this opportunity to take a look. She really wanted to know how good the alchemists of the Danyang sect were. Chapter 1395. Stepping into the 5th peak, the medicinal fragrance in the air became even stronger. Perhaps it was because she had arrived too early, or perhaps it was because every cave abode had set up a barrier, so she did not hear the sound of pills being refined. Instead, she could smell the medicinal fragrance that filled the air. Counting from the left, the 7th cave abode, she murmured softly, looking at the cave abodes. Finally, her gaze fell on the 7th cave abode. Walking outside, she saw an apprentice alchemist guarding it. "I'm here to deliver spirit herbs," she said, holding the basket in her hand. "Huh? Someone else?" The apprentice alchemist looked at Fengjiu in surprise. After looking her up and down, he said, "Come in." As he spoke, he led her inside to the place where the spirit herbs were placed. Walking into the cave abode, Fengjiu couldn't help but sigh in her heart. Sure enough, alchemists were treated differently. From the outside, this cave abode looked like a cave entrance, but inside, it was a different world. Moreover, there were several rooms, which should be a resting area, an alchemy room, and a bathroom. Any one of these rooms was much larger than the cave abode where she worked. After entering, she heard the sounds of alchemy in the alchemy room. There seemed to be someone muttering something wrong again, and so on. "Alright, just put the spirit herbs here. I'll send them to the alchemy room later," the apprentice said, letting Fengjiu leave the spirit herbs behind. "Okay." She took out the spirit herbs. Only the last one was left and said, "Then I'll leave first. I still have to deliver spirit herbs to other places." "Go." The apprentice alchemist nodded. After watching Fengjiu leave, he tidied up the spirit herbs and brought them to the alchemy room. Fengjiu didn't immediately go to the 6th peak. Instead, she walked around the 5th peak to familiarize herself with the place. Only then did she go to the 6th peak. When she arrived at the 3rd cave abode on the 6th peak, she didn't see any alchemists standing guard outside. Thus she called out, "Is anyone here? I'm here to deliver spirit herbs." Jingjiu still didn't reply. She thought for a moment, then walked inside. However, as soon as she stepped into the cave, she saw an alchemy apprentice lying on the ground. The smell of medicine still lingered in the air. Her expression changed when she smelled the medicine, and she quickly went forward to check. Based on her physique, these medicines would not have any effect on her, but if she breathed in the smell of this medicine, she would faint at best and her consciousness would be damaged at worst. Since this was a pill master's cave dwelling, then she should know the medicinal properties of this medicine, so how did she end up like this? Puzzled, she dragged the alchemy apprentice outside, then walked further in. When she arrived at the alchemy room, she saw another person lying on the ground. Compared to the unconscious alchemy apprentice outside, this person's body had traces of the explosion. Clearly, he had been injured by the fragments of the alchemy furnace. He was bleeding profusely, and his breathing was weak. She quickly stepped forward and moved him out of the cave so that he could breathe fresh air. Only then did she check on his physical condition. Then, she simply treated his wounds before quickly calling for help. "Men! Something happened, one of the alchemists is injured," she shouted as she ran. The distance between each cave residence was at least 50 meters. When she shouted, some alchemy apprentices heard her and rushed over to help. In the end, several alchemy apprentices, including her, sent the two people to the pharmacy for treatment. Chapter 1396. As an alchemist, He actually almost refined himself into a pill refinement master. This was really amazing. She shook her head inwardly, finding it unbelievable. Since he was a pill master, he should know how much to add to each pill. What time? How long would it take to refine after adding the ingredient? Even if the cauldron exploded, he should have known beforehand and had time to avoid it. She couldn't learn how to make the cauldron explode and almost get himself killed. "You're the servant who delivered the pills?" Suddenly, a voice sounded. She raised her head and saw an elderly man walking towards her. "Yes, I'm here to deliver the pills." She stood up and replied. "Very good. They were lucky to have met you today. Otherwise, they would have lost their lives if they had been delayed for another half an incense stick's time." The elderly man stroked his beard as he spoke. He looked at Feng Jiu and asked suspiciously, "You said the cauldron exploded? Then how did you get in? Why are you fine?" Feng Jiu blinked and said, "What do you mean I'll be fine after going in? I didn't make the cauldron explode. Of course I'll be fine." No. What I mean is, why are you fine after smelling the medicinal fragrance? That's 7 rest grass. If used well, it can save lives. However, if Pill Master Ku made the cauldron explode, the medicinal fragrance must be too strong. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gotten himself into such a state. Even the pill apprentice who went in fainted. "Oh, that," she suddenly said, "that's because the medicinal fragrance had already dissipated when I went in. Furthermore, I only smelled a little bit. It should be fine." Hearing this, the elderly man nodded and said, "What's your name? You saved a lot of people today. I'll get someone to record it." "My name is Feng Jiu." She smiled and said, "Feng Jiu? All right, I got it. You can go about your business," the elderly man said and gestured for Feng Jiu to leave. Seeing this, Feng Jiu bowed and left. She then went to the place where the pills were distributed and found the fat steward. After telling him about what happened, she took a few baskets of pills and distributed them. A busy day passed by. She used the opportunity of delivering spirit herbs as an opportunity to walk up and down and familiarize herself with the 3 Yang Peak. In the evening, when she was walking back with the basket, she caught a glimpse of a figure stepping on a flying sword and heading up the peak. Looking at the beautiful woman in white who was riding on the sword and standing quietly against the wind, she couldn't help but stop in her tracks and stare blankly. That face looked somewhat similar to her eyes, and that face was exactly the same as the Shangguan Wanru she had seen before. Was that her mother? She couldn't help but feel agitated. She opened her mouth and wanted to shout out loud, but her lips moved, but no sound came out. Perhaps Feng Jiu's gaze was too intense. It attracted the attention of Shangguan Wanru, who was flying on her sword. She slowed down in the air and lowered her head slightly to look down. She immediately saw the young man in green. It was just a glance, but she withdrew her gaze and continued to fly. Not long after, that graceful figure disappeared from Feng Jiu's sight just like that. That was her mother. She was even more beautiful in person than in the portrait. However, as she flew through the air, she brushed past her just like that. Chapter 1397. Half a month later. Feng Jiu, senior brother Zhang from the 6th peak, specifically asked you to deliver the medicine. Feng Jiu, deliver the medicine from the 5th peak as well. Feng Jiu, you've reached the standard for your reward. You can redeem your reward when you return. Feng Jiu, your green-feathered chicken is here again. Hurry up and call it over. Don't mess up the medicine that I've picked. Feng Jiu, cluck cluck cluck. The courtyard was bustling with activity. There were the voices of the odd job workers, the voices of the stewards arranging matters, and the cluck of the chicken. But the one that was called the most was the 2 words, Feng Jiu. I'm coming. Don't rush me, one by one. Feng Jiu ran in from behind and finished a fruit in a few bites. Because she was the fastest at delivering the medicine and had never made a mistake, She even rushed to deliver the medicine that others were unwilling to deliver. Thus, in half a month's time, she got along well with everyone here. Cluck, cluck, cluck. In less than half a month's time, the green-feathered chicken's body had almost doubled in size. The green feathers on its body had also become glossier. As for its egg, half a month had passed and it still hadn't been born. However, it followed Fengjiu around all day long, so everyone knew that this green-feathered chicken with a green hat was Fengjiu's spiritual bird. Green hair. Can you stop making noise? It's not early in the morning, why are you making noise? Go away, go away. I'm very busy. Don't come over and bother me. Fengjiu chased it away as she put the medicine into the basket. Cluck, 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 cluck. Green hair flapped its wings and walked out. It didn't continue to wander around the courtyard. Fengjiu? Is Fengjiu here? Someone shouted loudly. Yes, yes, I'm here. I'm here. She waved her hand without raising her head. When the person saw that he was busy, he quickly walked forward and handed the basket in his hand to him. This is what Master's Junior Shangguan wants. Take it to the 8th summit and give it to her. Hearing this, Fengjiu, who was holding the medicinal ingredients, paused. He raised his head to look at the person who had come and asked, Martial Uncle Shangguan? Is he the last disciple of the 3 Sons Grandmaster? Look at what you're asking. Other than her, how many people in our 3 Yang Peak have the surname Shangguan? That person smiled and said, That's right, it's her. I should have sent her personally, but didn't I have to make a trip down the mountain? It just so happens that you're going to deliver the medicine, so help me deliver it while you're at it. Her medicine isn't in a hurry, so you can just deliver the rest along the way. He knew that Fengjiu was a new odd job disciple who had only been in the sect for half a month. However, because of his good performance and the good impression that the alchemists had of him, someone had already suggested for him to follow the alchemists as a pill apprentice. Thus, he felt more at ease with him delivering the medicine. Hearing this, Fengjiu's eyes lit up. He hurriedly took the basket. Senior Brother Guo, don't worry, don't worry. I'll definitely do this well. If there's anything like this in the future, just leave it to me. I love delivering medicine to everyone. Ha ha, good, good. Then I'll have to trouble you. I'll bring you something when I come back. The man with the surname Guo laughed loudly. He patted Fengjiu's shoulder and turned to leave. Chapter 1398. She first sent the spiritual herbs that she needed to use in other places to the people. After walking around a few times, she went to the 8th peak. She had been here for more than half a month, and this was the first time she had the opportunity to step into the 8th peak. Unlike other places, only a few of 3 Yangzi's disciples lived on the 8th summit. It was also because of this that outsiders were not allowed to disturb them without being summoned. As for the people who delivered the spirit herbs, they were instructed by someone to deliver them. As for her mother, during this half a month, she had heard that her mother spent very little time concocting pills. This was because she rarely gave orders for pills to be sent up. It seemed that concocting pills was not something she did every day. Since she was 3 Yangzi's last disciple, she should have taken a fancy to her talent in refining pills. However, why did she spend less time refining pills when she came here? If it was anyone else, they would definitely study the Tao of pills wholeheartedly. After all, as 3 Yangzi's last disciple, she could use the spiritual herbs she needed at will without needing to exchange for them. She walked up the stairs to the 8th peak. As soon as she stepped in, her expression changed slightly. There was a formation and barrier set up inside. When she passed through the barrier, the jade tablet on her waist flashed, allowing her to naturally walk into the barrier. If it weren't for the subtle ripples that brushed past her body like water, she would almost not have felt it. The spirit arrays were distributed around the cave residences on this layer of the mountain. Compared to the cave residences of the alchemists below, the spirit arrays here were much more powerful. In the past half a month, she also found out that other than 3 Yangzi, the peak master of 3 Yangzi, who was a peak nascent soul cultivator, 4 of his 5 disciples, including her mother, were all peak golden core cultivators. It was said that the eldest disciple was a Tier 5 alchemy saint, the second and third disciples were Tier 3 alchemy saints, and the fourth disciple was a Tier 7 alchemy grandmaster. As for his mother, she was only a Tier 5 alchemy grandmaster. Pill masters were ranked from Pill Apprentice, Pill Master, Pill Ancestor, Pill Sage, Dan Wang, Pill Immortal, Pill Venerable, and Pill Deity. They were divided into 7 ranks, and the higher the rank, the harder it was to advance. The Dan Yang sect was the number 1 alchemy sect in the 8 great empires. The sect master's alchemy level was at most level 5 Dan Immortal Realm. Below that was the level of the peak masters of the various peaks. Most of the peak masters in charge of the various peaks were Dan Immortal S of the 1st to 3rd stage, and even 3 Yangzi was only a 3rd stage Dan Immortal. However, it was extremely difficult for him to advance any further. Alchemists focused on refining pills, so they naturally neglected their cultivation. This was also the reason why in the 8 great empires that were filled with experts, even though they had a high rank and status as alchemists, their cultivation couldn't even compare to some of the people from the mid-level clans outside. It was estimated that if they didn't know how to refine pills, it would be difficult for them to reach this level in terms of cultivation level. After all, everyone specialized in one area. It would be difficult for them to take care of other areas if they were to achieve good results in one area. Of course, a genius like Fengjiu could only be called a genius. What was a genius? Out of thousands of geniuses, only one could become a ghost. In addition to what she had learned in her previous life, she had also worked hard to learn things that she had never come into contact with before in this life. Otherwise, she would not have been able to gather so many skills in one body like today. Chapter 1399. She raised her head and saw a man in his 20s standing in front of a cave residence, sizing her up. Seeing this, she walked forward and caught a glimpse of an identity jade token on his waist and an alchemist badge on his chest. She then bowed and said, "Greetings, Senior Martial Brother. I'm here to deliver spiritual herbs, but this is my first time here. May I know where Martial Uncle Shangguan's cave residence is?" In the Danyang sect, the disciples all addressed each other as Senior Martial Brother and Junior Martial Brother, regardless of the level of alchemist. The only difference was that every peak master had to be addressed as Ancestral Master, and the disciples of the peak masters had to be addressed as Martial Uncle. Delivering spiritual herbs? The man stared at Fengjiu for a while and asked, "Wasn't this supposed to be Junior Martial Brother Gua's job? Why did you suddenly change?" "It's like this, Senior Martial Brother Gua had something to do and went down the mountain, so I'm here to deliver the herbs to Martial Uncle Shangguan." Hearing this, the man nodded and said, "Since it's your first time here, don't walk around randomly. Follow this path, and the cave residence at the end will be Martial Uncle Shangguan's cave residence." "Thank you, Senior Martial Brother." She smiled and thanked him. The man glanced at Fengjiu and said, "However, I just saw Martial Uncle Shangguan being called by the Ancestral Master's alchemist apprentice. Maybe she's not in the cave residence right now. There's a barrier around the cave residence, and Martial Uncle Shangguan doesn't have an alchemist apprentice with her, so I guess you can't go in." Is that so?" She was stunned for a moment, then showed a simple and honest smile. "It's okay, then I'll wait outside Martial Uncle Shangguan's cave residence for her to come back. Anyway, I've already delivered the herbs from other places, so there's nothing urgent now." Hearing this, the man coughed and his eyes flashed. He said, "Actually, you can also leave the herbs here. When Martial Uncle Shangguan comes back, I'll bring them to her for you." Hearing this, Feng Jiu's eyes moved slightly. He felt strange, but he didn't show it on his face. He put on a simple and honest smile and pretended that he didn't understand. It's okay, I have nothing to do anyway. It's okay to wait for a while. If I let Senior Brother do it for me, it would be my fault. If this delays Senior Brother's matter, or if Senior Brother Gua knows that I asked Senior Brother for help, he will definitely scold me. The man tried to say something, but he was interrupted by Fengjiu. Marshall Brothers' cave residence, Marshall Uncle's cave residence. She looked curiously at the cave residence behind the man and said, "It's so big. My master's surname is Duan. He's the eldest disciple of ancestral master Three Yangs." When he said those words, a hint of arrogance appeared between the man's brows. "So it's Marshall Uncle Duan's cave residence, no wonder it's so extraordinary," she immediately said with admiration. "I heard that Marshall Uncle Duan's pill rank is the highest among Marshall Uncle Shangguan's disciples, so amazing. Since Marshall Uncle Duan is your disciple, your pill refining talent must also be at the level of a prodigy. Oh right, I'm Fengjiu, how should I address you?" Hearing Fengjiu's words, the man became even more proud, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up. He glanced at Fengjiu and coughed, then said modestly, "Our Danyang sect is the #1 pill refining sect in the 8 great empires. There are many prodigies in the sect, and I'm not worthy of being called a prodigy." He paused and continued, "When you see me in the future, just call me Marshall Brother Hu. Yes, Marshall Brother Hu." Chapter 1400. Her eyes flickered, and following his gaze, she saw a white figure riding a flying sword towards the cave behind. That figure was graceful and delicate, and her white clothes were elegant and serene. Coupled with her outstanding appearance, she could not help but make people's eyes light up. "Ah, Marshal Aunt Shangguan is back," she said in surprise. After seeing that the figure had disappeared, she came back to her senses and looked at Senior Brother Hu in front of her. A dark light flashed through her eyes and she said, "Senior Brother Hu, I have to go deliver the herbs. Let's have a good chat when we have time. I'll be leaving first," Fengjiu said as he waved his hand, then turned and left, walking in the direction behind. That was her mother. Looking at her up close, she was even clearer. However, he seemed to have become a little colder, like a pool of stagnant water without any ripples, giving people a feeling of deathly stillness and coldness. Seeing her like that, her heart ached slightly. She must have missed her and her father so much. However, now that she was here, and she was also the last disciple of Three Yangzi, if she said she wanted to go out of the sect to gain experience, she should be allowed. This way, she could go to the Phoenix Dynasty to see them. However, looking at her, it seemed like her heart was filled with doubts, and she walked briskly towards the back. When she arrived in front of the cave, her figure was already gone. She stood outside the cave and hesitated for a moment. "Marshal Aunt Shangguan, Marshal Aunt Shangguan, I'm a disciple who came to deliver the herbs." She raised her voice and shouted twice. She nervously looked at the Immortal's cave. Perhaps her voice had reached the Immortal's cave. Not long after, the enchantment in front of the Immortal's cave dispersed. Shangguan Wanrong's indifferent voice came from inside. "Come in." Fengjiu was delighted. Just as he was about to step in, he suddenly saw another person beside him. He turned his head to look, and his expression stiffened. "Senior Brother Hu? Why are you here? What was this person doing here?" This was not his master's cave. "I obtained some spirit fruits a few days ago, so I'm bringing some over for Marshal Aunt Shangguan." He looked inside the cave and said, "Spirit fruits? You can give them to me and bring them to Marshal Aunt Shangguan." At this time, Fengjiu finally noticed that he was carrying a basket with a few fruits in it. "How can that be? That's too rude." As he spoke, his gaze swept over Fengjiu. "All right, let's go. Don't be long-winded here." As he said that, he walked in first. Fengjiu behind him helplessly, he glanced at senior brother Hu, and could only follow him in. At this time, if she still couldn't see through senior brother Hu's intentions. However, senior Shangguan Wanru, senior brother Hu, Shangguan Wanru, Shangguan Wanru, Shangguan Wanru, Shangguan Wanru, and Shangguan Wanru. She cast a sidelong glance at senior martial brother Hu, who was excitedly walking inside. She put away her expression and walked inside with a grin on her face. When she entered the cave, she saw a white figure sitting at the stone table drinking tea. Her expression was indifferent, as if she didn't care about anything. Even when they came in, she didn't raise her eyes to look at them. She only indifferently said, "Just put the spirit herbs on the shelf." "Greetings, Martial Aunt Shangguan." Senior brother Hu put on an act and bowed, and said with a fawning expression, "Martial Aunt Shangguan, it's me. We've met once before." Chapter 1401. Shangguan Wanrong glanced at him and frowned. She said indifferently, "There's no need. Take your things and leave." She directly asked him to leave without giving him any face. Senior Hu's expression stiffened and he looked as if he couldn't get out of the situation. "Martial Aunt Shangguan, get out!" Bang! This time, his voice was even colder. He slammed his hand heavily on the stone table, causing a loud bang. Fengjiu, who was standing at the side, had been paying attention. When he saw the wound on her wrist when she slammed the table, his eyes flashed and his expression changed. Wound? How could there be a wound? She was in Three Yang Peak, and she was the direct disciple of Three Yangzi. How could there be a wound on her body? Her gaze was fixed on her wrist. That wound seemed to be new. Moreover, it looked like a whip wound, but it didn't really look like a whip wound. Just as she was thinking, she saw Senior Hu's face darken because he couldn't get out of the situation. He picked up the basket and said in a slightly angry tone, "I've disturbed Martial Aunt. I'll leave now." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left. He even stopped and glanced at Fengjiu. "Why are you still standing there like an idiot? Put down the spiritual herbs and come out with me." But it wasn't easy for her to come here. How could she leave just like that? "Give me the herbs." A voice was heard. Fengjiu looked up and saw his mother standing in front of him. His lips moved slightly and he wanted to call out "Mother," but he forced himself to hold it back. She gathered her thoughts and stared straight into Senior Hu's eyes. A smile bloomed on her face and her voice was clear and cheerful as she said, "Martial Aunt, my name is Fengjiu." "Your surname is Feng?" She was slightly startled as she looked at the young man who had a pure smile on his face. She saw the young man's clear and bright eyes looking at her. She saw the strange look of admiration in his eyes and her heart couldn't help but tremble. She only felt that this young man gave her an inexplicably strange feeling. He was clearly someone she hadn't met before, but she felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. This feeling made her indifferent and cold expression warm up a little. Her entire face also softened. Her surname was Feng. Such a familiar yet distant surname. "Yes, my surname is Feng. Senior Gua had something to do and left the mountain, so it's my turn to deliver the herbs." She had the urge to tell her that her father's name was Feng Shao, but she was afraid that she would be caught off guard and shock her. Moreover, why was there a new wound on her hand? She had to investigate this matter thoroughly. "And let's go," she said and took the medicine basket from Fengjiu. "Yes." She bowed and replied. After taking a deep look at her, she turned and walked out. She told herself that there was no need to rush. There was no need to rush to reunite with her mother. They were both at Three Yang Peak, so there would be plenty of opportunities. The two of them walked outside, and the barrier was activated again, isolating them from the outside world. After walking out, Fengjiu turned around to take a look and heard the man surnamed Hu's strange voice. "Uncle Master Shangguan's attitude towards you seems to be better than mine." Hearing this, Fengjiu was startled. Her expression immediately turned cold. How could that be? Senior Marshal brother who, you're thinking too much. This is the first time I've seen Marshal Uncle Shangwan, and I'm just an errand boy. Marshal Uncle Shangwan only asked one more question because he was curious why the person who delivered the medicine was changed. Chapter 1402. Hearing those words, Fengjiu watched as the man with the surname who left. The corners of her mouth twitched, revealing a strange smile. She reached out her hand and flicked her sleeve, only to see a dust-like powder fall to the ground and disappear without a trace. On her way back, she went to exchange for her reward, then returned to the mountain peak to deliver medicinal ingredients for everyone. Just like that, a busy day passed. In the evening, when she was on her way back to the cave residence, she saw Senior Guo, who had just returned, walking towards her with a smile. Fengjiu, thank you for delivering the medicinal ingredients for me today. Come, this is what I brought back for you. As he spoke, he handed her a basket with an oiled paper bag. Before Fengjiu opened it, she smelled the fragrance and her eyes couldn't help but brighten. She said in surprise, Senior Guo, is this roasted chicken? Haha, that's right. The people on the mountain are not greedy. You, on the other hand, don't eat the fasting pills and only like to eat these things. I can't afford those spiritual animals, but I can buy this roast chicken for you. Senior Guo, you really understand my heart. Thank you, this is really the best thing. She said happily, then asked, did Senior Guo just come back? Do you want to come to my place for a drink or two? You still have wine? He was a little surprised. Yes, a Senior Guo gave it to me a few days ago. There's a big jar. I didn't drink it. She grinned. Since there's roasted chicken, it'll go well with wine. What's more, it's time to eat. If that's the case, then all right, we'll go to your place to drink. Let's go. He nodded with a smile and walked with her to the cave residence. In the cave residence, the two drank wine and ate roasted chicken at the stone table while chatting. From the initial sobriety to drunkenness, they drank a third of the jar of wine. Come, continue drinking, let's finish this cup. As Fengjiu spoke, she raised her cup and drank another mouthful of wine, then poured more wine for him. Looking at the drunk Senior Guo, Fengjiu grinned. Guo, Senior Guo, you're drunk. How is that possible? I'm not drunk, not drunk. Come on, let's continue drinking. He waved his hand, but his eyes were blurry, his face was red, and his words were slurred. It was obvious that he was drunk. Seeing this, Fengjiu said casually, Senior Marshal Brother Guo, Grandmaster Three Sons really treats Marshal Uncle Shangwan very well. The cave she lives in is much bigger than the one we live in. Well, it's good to say that, but you're new here, so you don't know. The last disciple, they only talk about it verbally. There's no ceremony, and, he burped and continued, the few of us who send the pills to the peak all know that Ancestral Master Three Sons is very strict. If he is not satisfied with the pills refined by the 5 martial uncles, he will even punish them. Is that so? Wouldn't he be beaten if he was punished? She said in astonishment, only to see him shaking his head drowsily. Not long after, his entire body fell to the ground. Senior Marshal Brother Guo? She called out and pushed him. Seeing that he had fallen asleep, she could only sigh and let him sleep. Chapter 1403. The next morning, Fengjiu went to work because Senior Guo was still hungover. As soon as she entered the courtyard, the fat manager greeted her with a smile. I knew you'd be the first one to come. Come here. Good morning, manager. She stepped forward with an obedient look and bowed respectfully. Then, she looked at the fat manager with a smile. All right, you went to the 8th summit yesterday. Here, this is the spiritual medicine that the 8th summit's Marshal Uncle Duan needs. Go get it and quickly send it to him. He handed a piece of paper with the spiritual medicine written on it to Fengjiu. When Fengjiu heard this, she happily replied, "All right." She could go to the 8th summit early in the morning and see if she could meet her mother. Thinking about this, she looked at the fat manager who had turned around to do other things. Her eyes flashed as she went forward and said, "Manager, let me deliver all the spiritual medicine on the 8th summit in the future. I can take over everyone else's work. This way, the other senior brothers won't have to be so busy." Hearing this, the fat manager paused for a moment and turned around to look at him. He nodded, "That's fine too. Although you haven't been here for long, you haven't made any mistakes. Especially when the uncle masters of the 8th summit want to use medicine, you can't make any mistakes. Alright then. From now on, you'll only be in charge of the spiritual medicine on the 8th summit." "Thank you, manager." She happily thanked him. The fat manager smiled and didn't mind. From the 3rd summit to the 8th summit, there were times when they had to go back and forth. The other servants would sometimes complain that it was too tiring to go up and down. This kid, on the other hand, was very happy. After the manager left, Fengjiu hummed a little tune as she went to get the spiritual medicine. She placed the spiritual medicine in the basket and checked it again. After confirming that there were no mistakes, she went to the 8th summit. She arrived at the first cave abode on the 8th summit with great familiarity. She shouted from outside and saw senior brother who from yesterday walk out with an ugly expression. When she saw him, her eyes flickered and the corners of her lips curled up. "Good morning, Senior Hu. You're really diligent. It's so early in the morning and you're already busy." Her voice was clear and she said with a smile. Senior Hu heard the voice and saw that it was Fengjiu. He couldn't help but frown. "Why are you here to deliver spiritual medicine again? Where are the others?" It was the same kid yesterday, and it was the same kid today. Fengjiu looked at him and didn't answer. Instead, he exclaimed, "Ah, senior brother Hu, what happened to your eyes and lips?" His left eye and lips were red and swollen, as if they were blisters. His entire face was extremely ugly due to the swelling of his eyes and lips. If it wasn't for his dark face, it would have been even more comical. Upon hearing this, senior martial brother Hu's expression stiffened and he evaded Fengjiu's bewildered gaze. He said in a deep voice, "It's nothing. It's just that my virtual fire has risen a little." What was the rise of virtual fire? How could she not know what she had done? It was clearly a flare-up of heat toxins, and it would have swollen for at least 10 days. It was impossible for him to recover after 10 days of pain. Who told him to keep looking around? If he didn't teach him a lesson, he wouldn't know his place. Although she thought this in her heart, her face was full of admiration. It must be because senior apprentice brother who was too busy and didn't rest well. A disciple like senior apprentice brother who is really a role model for my generation. Senior brother who glanced at Fengjiu when he heard that. Only then did his expression soften. "All right, give me the herbs." As he spoke, he tossed out a bottle. Chapter 1404. Fengjiu took it and thanked him happily. "Thank you, senior brother Hu. Go ahead." He waved his hand and signaled for Fengjiu to leave. "I'll take my leave first." With that, she turned around and left. After she left the cave, she could not help but look at the cave at the back and thought, "I wonder what my mother is doing?" Just as she was about to take a look, she heard the voice of the man with the surname Hu. "Why are you still standing there? The people living on the 8th peak are all martial uncles. You're just a lowly servant, don't offend them. Quickly go back after you're done delivering the herbs." "Yes." She raised her voice in response before walking away. As she walked back and passed by the 7th peak, she heard a surprised voice. "Aren't you that what's your name again? Phone what?" She turned her head and saw that it was Chen Dao. She went forward and bowed. "Fengjiu greets senior brother Chen." Yes, it's Fengjiu." Chen Dao laughed and looked Fengjiu up and down. He asked, "Where did you go to deliver the herbs?" Are you used to this task? Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled and said, I'm used to it, too used to it. It's good that you're used to it. He nodded. Seeing that Fengjiu's basket was empty, he asked, Are you done delivering the herbs? Do you still need to go back? The steward told me to only deliver the herbs on the 8th peak. I just went to the 8th peak to deliver the spiritual herbs, so I'm free now. With that, she paused and asked, Is there something you need, Senior Brother Chen? He nodded and said, Since you're free, come with me to pick some spiritual herbs. As soon as he finished speaking, he strode forward, and motioned for Fengjiu to follow him. Seeing this, Fengjiu did not ask and followed him. When she saw that he had walked out of 3 Yang Peak and went from the back of 3 Yang Peak to the back of another peak, she curiously asked, Senior Brother Chen, where are we going to pick the spiritual herbs? Are we walking on the back mountain path? Why did she feel like she was sneaking around? Don't ask so many questions. Just follow me. He didn't even turn his head as he continued to walk along the path. Seeing this, and thinking about the evaluation of Chen Dao in the peak, she suddenly felt like she had been led astray. Could it be that this fellow was thinking of bringing her along to do something bad? Thinking of this, she clutched her stomach and cried, Ouch! Chen Dao, who was in front, heard the noise behind him. He turned around and asked, What's wrong? Senior Chen, my stomach hurts. Can I? Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted. Your stomach hurts? Why don't you settle it here and I'll wait for you in front? Settle it on the spot. Fengjiu was speechless as the corners of her mouth twitched. Seeing him staring at her with a faint smile, she sighed in her heart and said helplessly, Well, there's no need. No need? Really? Don't you have a stomachache? It's okay. Anyway, it's still early. I can wait for you. As he spoke, he stroked his funny mustache. There's really no need. It doesn't seem to hurt anymore, she said embarrassedly. All right then. But if you have a stomachache or something else and want to go back first, you can tell me. I can help you settle it. Chapter 1405. Following him, they circled around to a bamboo forest. Only then did he stop and look around. She looked around and saw that it was just a bamboo forest without any spirit herbs. She couldn't help but ask, Senior Marshal Brother Chen, is this the place where you said to gather herbs? Not bad, not bad. This is the place. He smiled and nodded. But there aren't even many weeds here. Where would the spirit herbs come from? In this bamboo forest, other than the fallen bamboo leaves, there were only a few scattered weed. Where would the spirit herbs come from? Bamboo heart water. Go and gather it. Hurry. He waved his hand as he walked like a cat with his back bent. It was unknown what he was looking for on the ground, but he also stared at the bamboo trees. His actions were strange. Bamboo heart water? She suddenly understood. That's right, bamboo heart water could also be used as medicine. Moreover, the bamboo in this bamboo forest was spirit bamboo. However, obtaining bamboo heart water was a bit troublesome. Generally speaking, if one wanted to obtain bamboo heart water, they had to chop down the bamboo to obtain the water. Moreover, they had to pick the earliest time in the morning so that the bamboo heart water wouldn't evaporate. However, if they were to chop down the spirit bamboo to obtain the water, wouldn't it alarm others? Just as she was thinking, she suddenly heard the rustling of bamboo leaves. She was startled and turned around to look. She saw that Chen Dao had unknowingly jumped onto a bamboo. Thus, she shouted and asked, Senior Marshal Brother Chen, are you going to chop down the spirit bamboo to obtain the water? That's right. I just chopped down to the bottom of the bamboo. Normally, the bamboo heart water is stored at the bottom section. Hurry and secretly chop down 2 or 3 pieces of bamboo. The bamboo heart water should be enough for me to use. Hearing this, she secretly sighed. As expected, he was here to secretly chop down the bamboo. Helpless, she looked around and saw that there was no one around. She picked through the bamboo forest and chose the largest and straightest bamboo. She took 2 steps back and condensed spirit chi in her palm. Aiming at the second to last section of the bamboo, she cut it. Shio! The sharp sound of a blade of spirit chi was heard and a sharp cold light flashed. With a crisp sound, the largest and straightest bamboo slightly tilted to one side. Seeing this, she hurriedly went forward to support the bamboo and slightly moved it to the side. She used spirit chi in her hand to once again insert the cut bamboo into the ground. So, with a whoosh, the slightly slanted bamboo was once again inserted back into the ground. If it were not for the exposed bamboo head that had been cut off, one would not be able to tell that the bamboo had been secretly cut off. That'll do. She nodded her head in satisfaction. Then, she squatted to the side and sawed out the bottom section with a dagger. She then covered the exposed section with soil and stepped on it. Then, she continued to pick bamboo in the forest. He chopped off 3 of them in a row, using the same method. There was not the slightest trace of damage. She put away the bamboo water she had collected and looked around. Seeing that Chen Dao was still looking for something in the bamboo forest, she walked over. Senior brother Chen, I've collected the bamboo heart water. Are we going back now? Are you done? Hearing this, he turned to look at Fengjiu, then looked around. He did not see any bamboo that had been cut down, so he asked, "You didn't even cut down the bamboo, so how did you collect it?" "I cut it down. I cut down 3 pieces of bamboo." She smiled as she took out the bamboo heart water she had collected and handed it to him. Chapter 1406. I was worried that if the bamboo fell to the ground, it would cause too much of a commotion and people would find out that we were secretly cutting the spirit bamboo, so you planted it back. However, I don't think it will survive, she said rather helplessly. Taking only the bamboo heart water from a stalk of spirit bamboo was really a waste. Hearing this, Chen Dao was a little surprised. He looked around and didn't see anything different, so he asked, "Where did you cut it?" "I'll go take a look." "Over here." Feng Jiu could only bring him over and pointed to him. "Just these few stalks." Chen Dao took a look and was stunned for a moment, then he laughed out loud. "Not bad, not bad. Why didn't I think of this method before? I really didn't misjudge you. Letting you come with me was the right choice. This way, they won't know that we're secretly cutting the spirit bamboo, ha 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 ha." Feng Jiu smiled embarrassedly and asked, "Senior brother Chen, the bamboo heart water has been taken. Do you want it back?" "What's the rush? Since you're here, your senior brother naturally has to bring you something good. Come, 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 follow me." As he spoke, he gestured for Feng Jiu to follow behind him. He lightened his footsteps and walked towards the previous place. Feng Jiu watched him search the bamboo and some weed. She didn't know what he was looking for, so she asked, "Senior brother Chen, what are you looking for? Do you need my help?" "Sure." He put a finger to his lips and made a shushing gesture. In the next moment, he walked forward like a cat and suddenly took a deep breath. "Ha ha, I finally caught it. It's so fat. I'm lucky today." Feng Jiu looked at him and saw that he was holding a fat rat that weighed about 5 to 6 kilograms. The rat's grayish-black fur was prickly, and it was making squeaking sounds. Seeing this, the corner of her mouth twitched and she took a step back. "Senior brother Chen, why are you catching this rat? He's lucky? He can't be thinking of eating it, right?" However, when she looked carefully, she realized that it wasn't a normal rat, but a bamboo spirit rat that fed on spirit bamboo. "What rat?" "This isn't a rat, this is a bamboo spirit rat. It's very nourishing, you know? Moreover, this bamboo spirit rat meat is extremely delicious, and it's even better when roasted. You haven't eaten it before, but you'll know once you try it." He looked very excited and said excitedly, "In the entire Danyang sect, only this spiritual bamboo forest has bamboo spirit rats. If you want to eat bamboo spirit rats, you have to come to this spiritual bamboo forest. However, bamboo spirit rats are not easy to catch. You see, it took me a long time to catch one. As he spoke, he weighed the bamboo spirit rat in his hand and chuckled. It's at least 5 to 6 catties. It looks quite fat, so it should be enough for both of us to eat. Hearing this, the corner of her mouth twitched. All right, let's hurry up and find another place to roast this thing and eat it. He looked around and walked back. It's getting late. Although there's no one guarding this bamboo forest, if we roast something here, we'll definitely be discovered once the smoke rises. Let's go back to our territory. Therefore, Feng Jie was brought to another place just like this. When she came empty-handed, but when she left, she collected 3 tubes of bamboo heart water and even caught a big fat bamboo spirit rat. She could be considered to have returned from a rewarding journey. Chapter 1407. Senior Marshal Brother Chun, you're really good at roasting the bamboo spirit rat. It smells so good. Feng Jie praised as she stared at the bamboo spirit rat roasting over the fire with sparkling eyes. At this moment, in her eyes, it was a fragrant piece of meat. Smelling the rich bamboo fragrance, her stomach could not help but growl. Of course, I've roasted it no less than 10 times. Smelling the fragrance of the meat, he stroked his funny mustache. Seeing that it was almost done roasting, he sprinkled some seasoning on it before taking it down and placing it on the big leaf. Come, have a taste. This thing is not easy to catch. He cut a piece and handed it to Feng Jie. He also cut a piece for himself to eat. Then, he took out wine from his qiankuan bag and asked, "Do you want to drink some?" Feng Jie shook her head. "I'm not drinking. I have to go back and take a look later. I can't drink." Hearing this, Chen Dao did not force her. He only said, "I heard that a pill master wants you to become a pill disciple? Why didn't you go? Being a pill disciple is much better than being an errand boy." She took a bite of the meat. The tender, smooth, and fragrant taste made her eyes light up. She had a look of enjoyment on her face as she ate and said, "I can run around as an errand boy. It's more comfortable. I like it." "Since you like to run around so much, have you signed up for the herb-gathering training team in the Sex Mystic Realm in a month?" However, after saying this, he glanced at her and patted his forehead. "Look at my memory. You're only at the foundation establishment stage. That's something that only Golden Core cultivators can sign up for. However, if you beg me, I can take you along." As he spoke, he stroked his mustache and glanced at Feng Jie from the corner of his eyes. Hearing this, Feng Jie was stunned for a moment before she smiled. "Thank you for your kindness, Senior Marshal Brother Chen. However, I still have to deliver spiritual herbs to the martial uncles of the 8th Peak. I won't be going to this herb-gathering training team." "Oh? You run around all day, but you don't know that the 5 disciples of Ancestral Master 3 Yangs will be going together this time? This is an order personally given by Ancestral Master 3 Yangs." "That's right. How would a mere errand boy like you know about this?" Feng Jie was stunned for a moment. The 5 martial uncles will be going together? Then wouldn't Martial Uncle Shangguan go with him? Was this experiential learning dangerous? I seem to have heard that Martial Uncle Shangguan's cultivation isn't very high. Upon hearing this, Chen Dao glanced at Feng Jie. "You seem to be paying special attention to this Uncle Master Shangguan?" Hee. Feng Jie smiled embarrassedly. "That's because Grandmaster 3 Sons only has 1 female disciple, and she's so beautiful." Heh. I didn't expect you to be someone who likes beauty. But, for a woman who isn't strong, a beautiful face is a disaster. He shook his head and sighed. Feng Jie's eyes flashed when he heard this. How could that be? Martial Uncle Shangguan is the last disciple of Ancestral Master 3 Yangs. With such a strong background, who would dare to touch her? A woman's beauty will easily attract the attention of men and make them jealous. Do you think that ancestral Master 3 Yang's disciples are all people who don't get close to women? 9 out of 10 men are lustful. It just so happens that I'm the 10th one. Upon hearing this, Feng Zhu fell silent. Chapter 1408. Not hearing the praise he expected, he glanced at Feng Zhu and said, "I'm talking to you. Why are you in a daze?" Feng Zhu regained her senses and looked at him blankly. "What?" Seeing this, Chen Dao shook his head and waved his hand. "Nothing, nothing, continue to be in a daze. I'll eat meat." Saying that, he ignored him and picked up the bamboo spirit rat meat and ate it in big bite. "Senior brother Chen, I suddenly remembered that I have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. Next time, I'll look for you for a drink." Saying that, she stood up and patted her clothes to let the barbecued meat smell on her body dissipate. "Go, go." He didn't even raise his head as he said. Feng Zhu bowed and left. She didn't leave the 7th summit but headed towards Luo Heng's cave dwelling. "Senior brother Luo? Senior brother Luo?" She shouted a few times in front of Luo Heng's cave dwelling, and not long after, she saw a sleepy Luo Heng walking out. "Feng Zhu? It's you. Come in, come in." Luo Heng saw him and waved his hand, indicating for him to come in. Feng Zhu followed in, and when he entered the cave dwelling, he saw him sitting by the stone table drinking water and asked, "Senior brother Luo, you just woke up?" Last night I refined a batch of pills and only slept when it was almost dawn." Saying that, he looked at him. "Why did you come to find me? Is there something you need?" "Oh, it's like this." She also sat down at the table and started chatting. Then, she asked about the matter of gathering herbs and training. Finally, she beat around the bush and asked a few more questions. Around noon, she finally left the Immortal's cave. After she left the cave dwelling, the smile on her face disappeared. Thinking about what she had heard from Luo Heng, her heart sank. It seemed that even though her mother was 3 Yangzi's last disciple, it wasn't easy for her to survive in this sect. That was true. Even though her alchemy cultivation wasn't bad, she couldn't compare to the people from the alchemy sect. Furthermore, she hadn't been in the sect for long, and didn't have a strong backing like the others. If 3 Yangzi didn't protect her, one could imagine her situation. Thinking about the scar on her mother's wrist yesterday, her eyes turned cold. Then, he walked back with big strides. Her mother shouldn't be bullied. A few days later, ever since she came down from the 8th summit to deliver the spirit herbs, she would make 1 or 2 trips to the 8th summit almost every day. Although she had spent a lot of time on the 8th summit, other than the time she saw her mother, she didn't have the chance to see her again. It was the same for the other people from the 8th summit. They had seen the disciples in front of their cave abodes, but they had never seen the people inside. Just Luo Ling, Luo Luo's disciple, Luo Fju, Fu Luo. She raised her head and saw a janitor disciple running towards her. She asked, "What's the matter? Have you finished sending the herbs to the 8th summit?" The disciple asked. I just finished and was about to go back." Luo nodded. "Oh, I see. Then come with me. Someone's looking for you." As he spoke, he led the way and asked Feng Zhu to follow him. Seeing this, Feng Zhu didn't say much and followed him all the way to a medicinal field at the back of the 7th summit. Luo saw that the disciple leading the way had stopped. She asked curiously, "Who's looking for me?" Chapter 1409. Feng Zhu was stunned for a moment. She looked at the 5 or 6 people. 3 of them were servants, and their strength was in the foundation establishment realm. The other 3 looked like sect disciples based on the jade tokens on their waists, and their strength was in the golden core realm. The 6 of them and the servant who led the way made a total of 7 people. "Why are you looking for me?" she asked in a daze, her face full of confusion. One of them stepped forward and pushed her. "Brat, Did you take on all the jobs on the 8th peak? Fengjiu stumbled back, but her foot was tripped by another person's outstretched leg. She let out a cry of surprise and fell to the ground, looking at the 7 people surrounding her in shock. Why are you bullying me? She said with a bit of grievance. She lowered her eyes and put on a sad look. However, there was a flash of light in the depths of her eyes. She didn't bully anyone, so why did they bully her? She had been keeping a low profile recently, so why did they have to provoke her? Take out the things. We know that you've been doing well in the various peaks recently. Many senior brothers who practice alchemy have rewarded you with many pills. I've already given the pills away. She raised her head and looked at the man who spoke. She remembered this person. He was a pill apprentice from the 6th peak. His alchemy skills were average. It was said that he had been in the sect for many years, but he couldn't even pass the alchemy test. You gave it away? Heh, who are you trying to fool? You're just an errand boy. Even if you gave away the pills, you would keep some for yourself. It's impossible for you to give them all away. He sneered and looked at Fengjiu, who was sitting on the ground with his arms crossed. He said impatiently, "Hurry up and take out the pills. Also, if you know what's good for you, go back and tell the steward to give up the job of delivering pills to the 8th peak. Otherwise, At this moment, Fengjiu, who was sitting on the ground, was thinking, deal with them? I can't kill them. They're too troublesome. Beat them up? That didn't seem to work, because the strength she showed was only at Foundation Establishment. If a Foundation Establishment cultivator could really beat up a few golden core cultivators, the higher-ups would probably be alarmed. Should he just cover his head and let them beat and scold him? She wasn't willing to suffer such a loss. Give them some drugs? That was a good idea. At that moment, Fengjiu did not notice that in midair not too far away, a white figure was descending from the 9th summit on a sword and heading towards the 8th summit. However, when that figure inadvertently cast a glance at Fengjiu, who was sitting on the ground surrounded by 6 to 7 people, the figure paused for a moment. Shangguan Wanrong's beautiful brows slightly furrowed, and her beautiful eyes fell on the back of the mountain. Chapter 14:10. She wasn't by her child's side to protect her and accompany her as she grew up. She didn't know if Feng Xiao, whose memories had been sealed, had already married someone else after so many years. She didn't know if Feng Xiao had already married someone else. Would his wife treat her daughter well? Would she treat her daughter as her own? She didn't know if she was by her daughter's side, if her daughter was loved by anyone, if anyone bullied her daughter, if there were times when she was lonely and helpless. So many years had passed. She had been imprisoned in the Shangguan family and had no way of obtaining news from the outside world, let alone news about Feng Xiao and her daughter. But when she came here, alas! She sighed softly and turned to look down. Seeing that those people were approaching the young man, she flew down on her sword. I already said that I really don't have any more pills. I've really given them all away, Fengjiu said. Seeing that they had surrounded her one by one and were about to swing their fists, she hurriedly covered her head with both hands and shouted, "Ah! Don't hit me, I really don't have any more." Just as she was about to jump up and run away, she heard a clear voice. "Stop!" Hearing that clear voice, the 7 people turned around. When they saw that the person flying over on a sword was actually Martial Uncle Shangguan, one of their faces changed and they fled. Fengjiu was stunned for a moment. They left just like that? She was still thinking about what kind of medicine to give them. It was too easy for them. "Are you all right?" A soft voice with a trace of gentleness sounded. She was startled when she heard it and turned her head slightly to look. She couldn't help but be startled when she saw who it was. She was dressed in white and standing in front of her with her back to the light. There was a gentle smile on her beautiful and outstanding face, making her appear very amiable and gentle. That pair of beautiful eyes were staring at her with concern, causing her heart to skip a beat. A warm current flowed through her heart and she had the impulse to call out "Mother." This was the familial love and longing in her bloodline. Even if she had only become Feng Qinga halfway through her life, even if she was a cold-hearted person to begin with, in the depths of her heart, she still longed for the warmth of familial love. She longed for the warmth of her family. It was also because of this that she had the heart to become stronger. She wanted to protect them, protect the family that had given her warmth and affection. Right now, when she was being bullied by a few disciples, her mother, who had suddenly appeared in front of her and chased those people away for her, inexplicably made her feel warmth and bitterness in her heart. Even if she didn't know that she was her daughter, even if she was just doing it casually, to her, it felt like she was being protected by her family. Mother, do you know that the person in front of you is your daughter? Do you know that I came to the sect to look for you? Do you know how much I want to call you mother? How much do you want to see your family reunited? Seeing the youth sitting on the ground with reddened eyes staring at her, Shangguan Wanrong couldn't help but ask with concern, "What's wrong? Was he injured somewhere? Did they hit you? Where are you hurt?" Hearing her question, Fengjiu, who was sitting on the ground, shook his head. "No, they didn't have time to hit me before I fell." Hearing this, Shangguan Wanrong sighed in relief and smiled. "That's good. I saw that your eyes were reddened and thought that they had hit you." Chapter 14:11. Hearing this, Shangguan Wanrong couldn't help but stare blankly. She looked at the youth who had fallen to the ground and heard him say that he missed his mother. She couldn't help but think, would her daughter also miss her? However, as soon as this thought appeared, a trace of sadness flashed through her beautiful eyes. Feng Zhao's memories had been sealed, so he already didn't remember anything about her. How could their daughter know of her existence? "You should quickly return. I'm avoiding those people," she said slowly. Just as she was about to turn around and leave, she saw the youth who had just stood up from the ground. His palms had been scraped by the sand and stones on the ground, so she took out a bottle of medicine from her sleeve. "This is for you to take back and bandage the wound on your hand. It'll heal faster." Hearing this, Fengjiu took it, but before he could thank her, he saw her turn around and jump onto her flying sword. Thus, he hastily shouted, "Martial Uncle Shangguan, please wait a moment." Shangguan Wanrong turned around and glanced at Fengjiu, asking, "Is there something else?" "Many thanks for the medicine, Martial Uncle Shangguan." She bowed to express her thanks, then asked, "Will Martial Uncle Shangguan also go to the herb-gathering training in the secret realm?" Master has ordered us 5 disciples to go together. When the time comes, I'll naturally have to enter the secret realm." As she said this, she looked at Fengjiu below and said, "The lowest cultivation level to enter the secret realm is core formation stage. You're only in the foundation building stage, so you won't be able to go." After saying this, she no longer spoke and flew away on her flying sword. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled and looked at the departing figure, softly muttering, "Mother, I've already been a nascent soul cultivator for a long time." In the following days, she continued to deliver elixirs to the 8th summit as usual. If the 8th summit didn't need them, she would go to Chundao. Compared to other alchemists who were busy preparing for the mystic territory, Chundao still slept until noon every day. He would only start refining pills when he was in the mood. Occasionally, when he was in a good mood, he would even invite Fengjiu to drink together in the evening. When he got to know Fengjiu, he did not look down on him because Fengjiu was an odd-job worker or an errand boy. It was only because they got along well with each other and he saw that Fengjiu, this junior, had a crafty, straightforward, and interesting temperament. Most of the time, when he could help, he would lend a helping hand. Take this trip to the secret realm for example. That evening, Fengjiu secretly caught a bamboo spirit beast. After roasting it, he brought it to Chen Dao's cave. "Senior Brother Chen? Senior Brother Chen? Look at what good stuff I've brought," she shouted outside the cave. Chen Dao, who was inside, heard her and opened the enchantment. Come in. Seeing that the enchantment was opened, Feng Jiu quickly walked in. The moment he entered, he saw Chen Dao, who was filling bottles and jars, take a deep breath. He raised his head and looked at Feng Jiu with bright eyes. Isn't this the fragrance of the bamboo spirit meat? It's also emitting the fragrance of bamboo. Brat, did you secretly catch a bamboo spirit rat again? Hee hee, Feng Jiu laughed slyly. I was thinking that we're going to enter the mystic territory tomorrow, so I caught another one. So I went to catch another one. Look, I've just finished roasting it. It's still hot. Not bad, not bad. This is to my liking. He nodded approvingly and stroked his mustache. Then, he said, take a seat first. I'll come and drink after I'm done. Okay. She answered and opened the wrapped roasted meat. Then, she sat at the table and waited for him. Not long after, she saw a small bag placed in front of her. Chapter 14:12. For me? What's this? She looked at him in surprise. When she opened it, she saw that there were 7 or 8 bottles in the small bundle. Written on them were things like blood-staunching powder, poison cleansing pill, spirit condensing pill, and so on. Seeing these things, her heart slightly moved. This is all for me? If these things were to be sold outside, they would be worth a lot of money. He gave them to her so casually? And these are for you. This secret realm isn't just a medicinal realm. Because there are top-grade spiritual herbs and some extremely rare spiritual herbs inside, there will be some spiritual beasts guarding it to prevent any injuries. When you go back, put these things into your Qianquan bag and carry them with you, just in case you need them. But these things are too precious. Hearing this, he laughed. What precious or not? I'm an alchemist, I can refine any pill I want. These things are nothing. Take them, don't be so polite with me. Seeing this, her expression turned solemn. She stood up and cupped her hands in greeting. Thank you, Senior Marshal Brother. Although it was easy for him to get these things, it wasn't easy for him to give them away. Feng Jiu would remember this kindness. All right, quickly sit down and eat. This meat won't taste good when it's cold. He waved his hand as he spoke. He took out some wine and said, You can't wake up late tomorrow morning. This secret realm won't wait for anyone. Hearing this, Feng Jiu smiled. Yes, I know. Ever since I entered the sect, I've been waking up early every day. I've already gotten used to it. But Senior Marshal Brother, you sleep until noon every day. You can't forget about entering the secret realm tomorrow. I know. Come, this jade tablet is for you. With this jade tablet, you can enter without me opening the barrier. If I really oversleep tomorrow, you must come and call me. He handed a jade tablet to Feng Jiu as he spoke and tore off a piece of meat to eat. Feng Jiu took the jade tablet and glanced at it, then put it away. Yes, I know. Don't worry. The two ate and chatted in the cave. When the moon was high in the sky, Feng Jiu walked back with swaying steps. As he walked, he hummed a little tune. He was in a very good mood. However, when she arrived at the path leading to the bottom of the 7th summit, her footsteps paused and she could not help but glance at the 8th summit. What was her mother doing at this time? As he thought about it, he looked to his left and right. When he saw that there was no one around, he retracted his aura and charged towards the 8th summit. She was already extremely familiar with the barriers and runes of the 8th summit. She easily avoided them, and without alerting anyone, she arrived at her mother's cave abode and sat on a tree not too far away. The lush leaves covered the night sky. Dressed in green, she sat on a big tree. Her aura did not leak out at all, as if she had become one with the tree. She leaned against the tree and looked at the cave abode with narrowed eyes. After looking at it for a while, she still could not see anything. As a result, she yawned and closed her eyes, preparing to sleep there. However, not long after she closed her eyes, she suddenly heard some noise. She opened her eyes and saw that the barrier to the cave abode had opened. A woman dressed in white walked out. It was her mother. It was already so late. Where was she going? She was slightly startled. When she saw her mother slowly walking forward, she could not help but pause and follow behind her. Chapter 14:13. She followed her in secret. After walking for a while, she realized that her mother was heading towards the 9th summit. Why was she going to the 9th summit so late at night? She was puzzled as she watched the white figure in front of her walk up the 9th summit with light steps. She could not help but frown. She had been to the 9th summit once before. There was no barrier on it, but there were 2 nascent soul cultivators guarding it. Moreover, there were many killing formations inside. If she entered by mistake, she would definitely die. However, while there were nascent soul cultivators guarding the front, there were none at the back. She had gone up from the back of the mountain last time, so she did not alert the people of the 9th summit. She watched her mother enter the 9th summit from afar. She saw the 2 nascent soul cultivators sitting cross-legged with their eyes closed. She thought for a moment and quietly retreated. She planned to go up the 9th summit from the back of the 8th summit to see what was going on. There were restrictions on flying between the mountain walls at the back of the mountain. It was only limited to the top and bottom of the mountain. If she wanted to fly down from the 9th summit, she only needed to go around this restriction. She could fly in other areas, but she could not reach the summit. If she wanted to go up from the mountain walls at the back of the mountain, the only way was to climb. His body clung to the mountain wall as he climbed up. He accidentally stepped on a soft rock and slipped down a little. His whole body fell down a little. She held onto the rock and glanced down at the falling rock. She then climbed up again. She thought to herself that she should get a rope or something here to make it easier for her to go through the back door. Not long after, she arrived at the top. She avoided the formation and hid her presence as she went into the bamboo forest. The place where the 3 Yangtze lived was not a cave, but a bamboo courtyard. The bamboo courtyard was in the middle of a bamboo forest. It was extremely quiet and serene. The bamboo was spiritual bamboo, and there was a formation in the bamboo forest to prevent outsiders from entering without being summoned. However, formations were nothing to her. She passed through the formation in the bamboo forest in a few steps and arrived near the bamboo courtyard. Last time, she had sneaked in once, but she didn't see the 3 Yangtze. At this time, in the darkness of the night, the bamboo courtyard was as bright as day. She could still see her mother's figure reflected on the wall under the illumination of the light. When she saw this, she held her breath and quietly approached. She wanted to see what they were doing inside. What was it that required them to give orders in the middle of the night? You were brought back by me from a lower country, and I even took you in as my last disciple. You have to work harder than others, so that I won't waste my efforts in nurturing you. In the bamboo house, the middle-aged man sitting upright spoke in a deep voice. His sharp gaze stared at Shangguan Wanrong, who was standing respectfully in front of him. He said, "Remember Master's words. When you enter the secret realm this time, you must pick those 3 top-grade spiritual medicines." Yes. Shangguan Wanrong complied and listened to him explain a few more things. Finally, she saw him take out a bottle of medicine. There is an elixir in this bottle that can help you enter the middle stage of the Aurus Core realm as soon as possible. After entering the secret territory, I have other tasks for your senior brothers. You just need to do what I tell you. Yes, disciple understands. Thank you, Master. She took the bottle and stored the pills away before saying, "If Master has no other instructions, this disciple will take her leave first. Go." The 3 Yangtze waved his hand, indicating for her to leave. Outside, Fengjiu, who had seen this scene from the shadows and heard the conversation between the 2 people inside, leaned to the side and hid in the shadows. He watched his mother walk out of the bamboo house and walk down the mountain peak. Chapter 14:14. Seeing that her mother had left, she paused for a moment, then left from the back of the mountain. The next morning, she packed her things and headed to Chen Dao's cave residence. She didn't really believe that he would wake up early. After all, she had been here for quite some time and she had never seen him wake up early. Kiki, Kiki. Green Hair appeared out of nowhere and followed beside her, clucking. Seeing this, Fengjiu glanced at it and said, "Go away, I don't have time to hang around with you today." Ha 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 ha. Green Hair followed Feng Nine nonchalantly. He walked with his two short legs and swayed his round body as he followed Feng Nine to Chen Dao's cave residence. Sure enough, when everyone had reported to the transportation formation, she entered Chen Dao's cave residence and found that he was still sleeping soundly. Looking at the figure sleeping soundly on the bed, she secretly shook her head. Just as she was about to wake him up, she saw Green Hair, who had followed her in, jump to the head of the bed, raise its neck and cry out at the top of its voice. Kiki Kiki, Kiki Kiki. Hearing the crowing of the rooster and seeing Green Hair raising its head and crowing loudly, the corner of her mouth couldn't help but twitch. Fine, just let it be. Green Hair was the best at waking people up. Kiki Kiki. Where did the rooster come from so early in the morning? Chen Dao muttered, turned around and waved his hand. Green Hair jumped up and landed firmly on Chen Dao's body. Kiki Kiki, ah! So noisy. He angrily jumped up and sat up. When he opened his eyes with anger and saw Fengjiu standing by the bed and staring at him, he couldn't help but be stunned. Fengjiu? We're going to the mystic realm today. Heavens! I woke up late. Wait for me, I'll be done soon. As he spoke, he hurriedly rushed to the bathroom to wash up, then put on his clothes and tied his black hair into a hairpin before going to Fengjiu. How is it? Is this okay? Your head is crooked. Fengjiu pointed at the crown on his head. Hearing this, Chen Dao widened his eyes and blew his mustache. What do you mean my head is crooked? Don't you know how to speak properly? She adjusted the crown on her head as she walked outside. Hurry up, don't lose track of the group. He called out to Fengjiu to walk faster. As the two of them walked towards the teleportation portal, they met Luoheng, who was in a hurry and looked as disheveled as Chen Dao. Senior brother Luo, you also woke up late? Fengjiu raised his voice to greet him. Oh, it's you. It's so early in the morning. He paused, glanced at Chen Dao and asked, Fengjiu, don't tell me you're thinking of following senior brother Chen into the mystic realm? Hearing this, Fengjiu grinned. Senior brother Luo, you're really smart. Upon hearing this, Luoheng was stunned. Are you serious? You're only in the foundation establishment realm. With your cultivation level, aren't you afraid that you'll end up as fertilizer for the spirit herbs inside? The corner of Fengjiu's mouth twitched, but he didn't say anything. Chen Dao glanced at Luoheng and said, Just take care of yourself, what are you talking about? Fengjiu, hurry up, ignore him. As he spoke, he quickened his pace. Hey, wait for me, we'll have company. Luoheng shouted and hurriedly caught up with them. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.